Will the meeting please come to order? Today is Tuesday, July 16th, 2024. This is the 19th regular meeting of the current term of the Metropolitan Council of Nashville and Davidson County. Will all members of the council, as well as the public, please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation is being offered this evening by the Reverend Breonis Mitchell, pastor of Mount Gilead Missionary Baptist Church in Hermitage. Reverend Mitchell is the guest of District 14 Council member Jordan Huffman. You're recognized, sir.
Let's pray together. God of Ezekiel and Esther, Moses and Martha, Abraham, Isaac and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca and Rachel, the God of black and white, rich and poor, male and female, the God of humanity. As we gather here today as members of this Metro Council, we humbly ask for your guidance and wisdom and blessings upon our meeting. Grant us the strength to work together in harmony, to listen with open hearts, and to make decisions that serve the greater good of our community and our city. May we approach each issue with compassion, understanding, and respect for one another's perspectives. Help us to seek solutions that promote justice, equality, and the well-being of all of our citizens. More importantly tonight, Lord, we pray for the safety and prosperity of our city and for the courage to face the challenges that lie ahead. We know your word is true and all things work together for good to them that love you and are called according to your purpose. So may your light shine upon us as we strive to make our city a better place for all who call Nashville home. Bless this gathering with your presence and guard our words, actions as we conduct the business of the people we represent. May our decisions be guided by your wisdom and our hearts filled with your love. And we offer this in your holy name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. And thank you, Reverend Mitchell. Timely words. Council members, this past weekend was an especially sad one for the United States of America and again for our beloved Nashville, with hateful actions making neighbors and guests fearful and concerned from Pennsylvania to Tennessee, all across our great nation, and today right up to the steps and inside our city hall. Political violence and intimidation threatens our democracy and our constitutional freedoms of assembly and speech. No one in the United States of America should ever fear attending a political event, a festival, a worship service, or a public meeting. Yet here we are, still reeling from multiple white supremacist demonstrations and provocations in our streets, and just Saturday evening, an assassination attempt on a former president and political candidate. Councilwoman Johnston has brought a late file resolution to engage and address this moment and condemn political violence. You will find that in your inboxes, and we will take it up after the proposed rule of procedure. After item H on your agenda and before the consolidated consent agenda. I would ask in a show of unity when she requests a suspension of the rules to bring that before us in a condemnation of political violence, that we support that suspension of the rules. Without objection, we will suspend the calling of the roll and ask the clerk to record the names of the members present throughout the meeting. Is there a motion for approval of the minutes of July 2nd, 2024? Okay, properly moved and seconded. Without objection, the minutes of the meeting of July 2nd are approved. Mr. Clerk, are there any messages from the mayor?
There are no messages from the mayor.
All right, Mr. Clerk. Well, in lieu of a message from the mayor, we do want to wish you a very happy birthday and express and express our appreciation for you and your staff. We're grateful for you. Thank you. Okay, we are now moving into Section E of our agenda, elections. Candidates in this category are subject to a recommendation vote by the Rules, Confirmations, and Public Elections Committee and an election by the council. To that end, Chair Sepulveda, you are recognized first for your committee report for the nominees for election to the Music, Film, and Entertainment Commission, please.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. As a proud Mexican American and first Latina elected to the council, I would like to offer up the rules votes. So for Anastasia Brown, Lynette Kraft, Ross Holmes, Gina Miller, Mo Sabri, Stephanie Silverman. Rules voted 6 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Thank you, Chair Sepulveda. So this election you've heard the recommendations of the Rules, Confirmations, and Public Elections Committee. This is an election to fill 3 vacancies for terms on this commission expiring June 20th in 2028. Election to this commission requires 21 votes. Members may vote for up to 3 nominees. Mr. Clerk, would you please open the vote? Okay, with all votes in, Mr. Clerk, please show the vote. Okay, so far, requiring 21 votes, the council has elected to this commission Ms. Gina Miller and Ms. Stephanie Silverman. And so please remain with us and we'll congratulate all 3 of our folks at the end. Mr. Clerk, will you please organize a second vote? Members, at this juncture, you will be voting for 1 nominee to fill the 3rd vacancy. The 1st and 2nd vacancy have been filled by Gina Miller and Stephanie Silverman, but our vote continues after Mr. Clerk tells us it's ready. Okay, your tablets are ready. Ms. Webb, are you seeking to vote the second time? No worries. Okay, all votes are in. Mr. Clerk, please show the vote. And council has also elected Mo Sabri. All right, then. If you would please stand as I call your name to be recognized. Gina Miller, Stephanie Silverman. Let's have collective applause at the end, please. And Mo Sabri. Thank you all for your willingness to serve, as well as to the other nominees who were also willing to serve. Thank you. Okay. We are now on to section F of your agenda. ITS staff will be circulating to get you kind of your tablets into regular mode and out of voting election mode. This section of your agenda shares all persons that were scheduled to appear before the Rules, Confirmations, and Public Elections Committee this evening for interviews in what is now a 2-meeting process. No votes will be taken by the body in this section of the agenda other than for deferrals. Referrals back to committee will be by rule. Chair Sepulveda, a committee report, please, first for any deferrals or withdrawals, if there are any.
We have one withdrawal, which was Jerry Pentecost.
Okay.
And then for Christy Pruitt-Hayes, Patricia Tarquino, and Julie Caputo, they were deferred 1 meeting.
Okay, so Christy Pruitt-Hayes, F3, apologize, Julie Caputo for the Short-Term Rentals Appeal Board, also recommended for a deferral of their interview part of the process. And Ms. Sepulveda, I apologize, if you could please, I've got Mr. Pentecost as a withdrawal, Ms. Pruitt-Hayes, and Ms. Caputo for a 1-meeting deferral, and you mentioned another.
Patricia Tarquino.
And Patricia Tarquino for the Farmers Market Board. Is there a motion, Chair, to defer those 3 nominees?
Move for a 1-meeting deferral.
The next meeting? A second? Any discussion on that deferral? All in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay. Now, Ms. Sepulveda, to you on the remaining folks in your report, please.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I will have to defer to my vice chair for one of these, but okay. For Procurement Standard Board, Kim Sampson, 6 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay. Vice Chair Prep T from the same mic. Go ahead, sir.
In consideration of the appointment of Myra Yu, the Rules, Confirmations, and Public Elections Committee approved with a vote of 5 in favor, 0 against, 1 not voting.
5 in favor, 0 against, and 1 not voting. And again, colleagues, and for members of the public and nominees and appointees, that is a mandatory re-referral for those individuals. No vote required. Okay. That concludes section F of our agenda. So next we are moving into section G, public comment. Members of the public wishing to speak during the public comment period may sign up on the council meeting sign-up sheet that is in the Metro Clerk's office at the counter on the day of the scheduled meeting. Public comment sign-up for council meetings begins at 5 p.m. and ends at 6 p.m. on the day of the scheduled meeting. Public comment is limited to 20 minutes total at council meetings, and each speaker is allowed up to 2 minutes to speak. Requests for interpretation services can be directed to the council office as well. It's important for us to recognize that persons speaking on agenda items must be prioritized to comply with state law, and that all those who signed up for public comment acknowledge that they have read our procedures. Okay, first for public comment is Rabbi Dan Horowitz, who is speaking on agenda item 82 in support. You're recognized, sir. Welcome.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Good evening, friends. My name is Rabbi Dan Horowitz, and I'm the CEO of the Jewish Federation of Greater Nashville. In the past year, anti-Semitic flyers have been tossed onto residential driveways in our city multiple times, including last night. Our institutions have received multiple bomb threats, and there have been multiple instances of hate groups marching in our streets, with 2 different groups visiting Nashville in the past 2 weeks alone. Now, when people ask me, why are these people visiting Nashville? My answer is because Nashville's awesome. And with the laws on the books not being enforced, you can come march with your mask on during the day, go honky-tonkin' with your friends at night, without any concerns that you'll lose your job on Monday. These groups have violated several city ordinances, but the laws that you all passed are not being enforced. For example, there's a city ordinance that says that groups of 20 or more people cannot parade on city sidewalks without providing advance notice. So too, there's a city ordinance that says that people cannot be masked on public property as a means of disguise. For those who are wearing masks to try and keep their identities secret, having to provide ID to an officer issuing a ticket can be a significant deterrent. Now, some have suggested that enforcing these laws would be problematic as they haven't been enforced in the past and would open up the city to a First Amendment lawsuit. The solution to that, however, is simple. Each layer of city and state government should put forth a statement tomorrow that says the following: to this point, our laws have not been appropriately enforced. Going forward, regardless of the content of the speech, when our laws are broken, they'll be enforced. And then enforce the laws. Our city's laws against disguises, assembling without notice, littering, and more should be enforced when violated by hate groups, by love groups, by Jewish groups, by student groups, by all groups. It's really not that hard. If you truly want Nashville to be a place where people of diverse backgrounds can thrive, the status quo can't stand. We can't and shouldn't have to do it alone. My community's being targeted. We're not the only ones. Stand up and enforce these laws. Show us you understand how serious the situation is.
Thank you,
Or don't be
Rabbi.
surprised when our city crumbles and is devoid of Jews. Thank you.
Thank you. Next for public comment is Nicole Williams on agenda item, looks like 51, BL 2024-187, regarding commercial zoning. Ms. Williams, you are recognized.
Yes, hi. My speech will not be as impassioned or as moving as that one was, but I am in support of Councilmember Horton's bill regarding adaptive residential development and expanding the ability for adaptive residential to more commercially zoned parcels. I am opposed to the amendment from Chair Gamble that would arbitrarily apply certain restrictions on the amount of housing that you could build without then having to build commercial space into the development. I think Councilmember Sean Parker, the council member from District 5, probably shouldn't use names, but was offered some really great sort of lived experience in the planning and zoning committee yesterday when he spoke about how efforts in his district to enforce restrictions like that have sometimes been unsuccessful. And what he has found is that by encouraging residential along corridors, even in commercially zoned parcels, that encourages a more vibrant mix of uses along those corridors, not necessarily within the same building. So I think also we talk a lot about how we should defer to the expertise of our world-class planning department. I would encourage you to do that here. During the Planning Commission, planning staff said that they considered an amendment like this, but that they based on the research that they had done, that it would be more likely to discourage people from building housing because the market won't necessarily support that additional commercial. Like, we're not New York City. We're not going to have ground floor retail everywhere, but I encourage you to support the bill and vote against the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Mac Miller, who is speaking on agenda item 82, which is transit, but also has indicated BL 2024-187, which is regarding adaptive residential and commercial use. So either of those or both, sir, you're recognized.
Thank you. I'm mainly sticking to I support the adaptive reuse plan, but really here to support the transit referendum. It's a no-brainer. Anyone who's been trying to go down 65 across Trinity Lane can't tell me we don't need it. Anyone who's tried to walk their dog in a neighborhood without sidewalks, like I do every day, can't tell me we don't need it. Yeah, that's about it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Next is Madeline Roberson on agenda item 82, BL 2024-427, also regarding the transit program.
Hello, good evening. Over the last year and a half, I've met with and heard from so many Nashvillians, about a little over 2,000 of them to be exact. From all walks of life, I've sat with them and asked them what they want, what they need, and what their values are when it comes to mobility infrastructure. The message from them is undeniably clear. They want dedicated funding for public transit right now. They really wanted it many years ago, but as the saying goes, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is now. So the time is now to finally take a step to investing in our growth as a city and making sure that we have the infrastructure and support moving our people around. As I'm sure you all know, we are one of 4 of the top 50 cities of our size in the country who is still yet to prioritize our residents' mobility infrastructure. Beyond this, from a sustainability perspective, which is very important to me personally, investing in public transportation is the single greatest step a city can take to reducing our greenhouse gas emissions. In Nashville, over 50% of our total greenhouse gas emissions come from personal vehicles. By investing in public transportation, we can take huge strides towards cleaner air and water, healthier communities, and less pollution. It's crucial to the success of our communities, our planet, and the people of Nashville that we finally take the step to invest in moving Nashvillians around more efficiently and sustainably. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Ashley Northington, speaking also on agenda item 82 regarding the transit improvement program. Next, after Ms. Northington, would be Nia Welch, and you're welcome to go ahead and come forward in preparation to speak. Go ahead, Ms. Northington.
Good evening. I'm Ashley Northington at 9073 Ristow Drive, and I am the chair of Moving Forward of Middle Tennessee. Nashville has the opportunity to do something it has never done before. It has the unique chance to be intentional about building a community that works for everyone. I am here tonight to ask for this body's continued support of the transit improvement measure before you. As I have said many, many times before, and I'm sure some of you have heard me say this is a foundational first step to re-envision, reinvest, and re-engineer our community so that everyone, all of us, has an equitable opportunity to thrive. Transit, or the conversation around transit, is not just about cars or buses or sidewalks or streetlights. Transit is about prosperity and whether everyone, regardless of where you live, has an opportunity to achieve it. Transit is one lever that we can pull that helps us to get this done. I hope that you will continue your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Nia Welch. Welcome.
Hi. I live in Napier, JCUC, South Nashville area. In bus 75, we go transit bus. Used to run in Napier area, but they suddenly they got rid of it. So I feel like bus 55, 56, and 18 should trade places where bus 75 used to run at. And also to add a bus stop in front of Glencliff High School, because walking to the bus and from the bus is about 15 minutes by walking. So it would be a great idea to add one in front of the school. And also, I feel like Hillsborough High School has the whole transit and bus stop in front of their school. So I feel like it would be better for other high schools to get the same treatment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Welch. Next is Aaron Manning. Mr. Manning is here to speak on agenda item 82 regarding the Transit Improvement Program.
Hello, my name is Aaron Manning. I stay in the Napier area. So I'm here about the McGavick bus stop. They moved the McGavick bus stop towards the McDonald's, and it's like 90 minutes away to get us to the bus stop and back to school. And I think that they should add it like near the school, so we don't have to be able to be late to school, and we can just be able to like get there on time and do what we have to do and get to class and stuff. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Next is Maneen Hall. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Manon. I'm a resident and renter in District 3, speaking in support of BL 2024-427, which places the Choose How You Move referendum on the November 5th ballot, and in support of BL 2024-187 about adaptive residential development. I want to thank all 32 co-sponsors for supporting this important step in Nashville's transit future. Tonight is only the beginning. This program needs everyone's help and needs all of our council members to engage with their constituents to give this the best chance of success, to be as good of a program as it can be, and for it to pass in November. As a current car owner and frequent transit rider, this plan addresses those dual needs. Personally, I desire to not need to own a car to live in Nashville. The promise of a 24/7, 365 network would allow me to move faster, easier, and more affordably, and would allow a more affordable, car-free future for myself and many more Nashvillians. Now, quickly in my support of the adaptive residential development proposal, CM Horton's bill offers a creative and practical step in reducing Nashville's housing shortage by removing unnecessary restrictions on where existing buildings can be converted into residential units. It unlocks the potential for more housing options. It recognizes that many underutilized buildings suitable for residential use exist outside these zones. Expanding the eligible area significantly increases the number of potential development sites, as highlighted by the Metro Planning Commission's analysis. Importantly, the report also clarifies that these additional parcels are still primarily located near existing infrastructure and amenities. This means these locations are already well suited to support new residents, promoting walkable and vibrant neighborhoods. It also fosters a more sustainable Nashville by encouraging infill development. Residents will benefit from a wider range of housing choices within established communities, reducing reliance on cars. Additionally, this approach revitalizes existing areas and minimizes pressure to develop on undeveloped land at the city's outskirts. I urge you to approve this bill, and as well as Choose How You Move on the ballot. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next is Pat Halper. Here to speak on the Transit Improvement Program. Go ahead, Ms. Halper.
Yes, I am here to support the Choose How You Move transit plan. I thought the mayor made a great point during his campaign when he talked about how it helped his family to be able to buy a house because they didn't have a cost associated with the car. This could be pivotal for many Nashvillians, but this plan also tackles our traffic problems and transit access in a variety of ways to serve a variety of consumers. Modernization of traffic signals will relieve frustration and move us through the city more safely and efficiently. The redesign of problem intersections and the building of complete streets will serve and increase the number of pedestrians and bike riders and has the potential to make us a healthier city. The last thing I'd like to speak to is the benefit this plan provides to our fellow Nashvillians by providing much improved service 24/7 and 365 days a week. I will speak in honor of a friend of mine who is unfortunately no longer with us to speak for himself. I met Eric through a nonprofit I was involved with that went into the Davidson County Jail before COVID and met with whoever was interested on Monday nights after their release. This part of the jail housed men who had sentences less than 11 months and 29 days. Unfortunately, Eric was incarcerated because he couldn't make bail on a low-level charge. The time he served completely disrupted his work and housing in a way that was very difficult to recover from. It took a while, but Eric started getting back on his feet and got a good electrician job in construction. We were able to get him into a new workforce housing apartment off Trinity Lane. He had a car, but it wasn't in great shape, and one day it completely died, and he couldn't afford to get it fixed. He had to be at his construction job in Midtown by 6 a.m., but there wasn't a bus close by to get him there by then. We worked through a few different solutions, but they weren't sustainable. He started missing work and eventually lost his job. It shouldn't have been that hard just to get to work. Eric's situation wasn't and still isn't unique. It takes a lot of very hardworking people to keep a city like Nashville going, and they should be able to get reliable transportation whenever they need it and a place to live in Davidson County. We depend on them, and they should be able to depend on us to provide the transportation system needed to do the jobs that keep this city alive.
Thank you. Next is Aaron O'Dowd. Aaron is also here to speak on agenda item 82, the Transportation Improvement Program.
Hello, everyone. This is my first time, and I have light sensitivity, so pardon the sunglasses, but I'm also a local rock star. That's kind of a joke. So I'm a musician, and I also work in marketing, and my job requires me to go all over the city, often at a moment's notice. It's very difficult, really, to get anywhere. I've had health problems. I was also in 2 car accidents in ride shares that gave me a concussion. I'm still very light sensitive. Having access to healthcare is also huge with transportation. During the pandemic, I had a growth in my jaw. I couldn't drive actually for years from that. So being able to drive last year was like a huge accomplishment for me. But I didn't have a car. And getting a car living in Ashland City was crazy because I had to Uber to Nashville to work. And from the outset, many people from social media might think I'm super successful. And, you know, I've gotten to work as a manager for major artists' VIP events. Tomorrow I'm in a music video as an actor. But I can't afford my own car. I use a car that is a friend's extra car, and it broke down last week. So I had to get a ride to this meeting. This weekend, I'm hosting promotions for Louisiana hot sauce. I work my butt off. I work 50 hours a week. I have a nice house, but I cannot, for the life of me, seem to get a car, and I don't feel safe to ride the bus. I live near Dickerson. I live really close to downtown, so I can Uber downtown for about $10. But tomorrow, to get to the music video that I'm being paid well for, I will have to pay $40 each way for an Uber. There's no bus, there's no light rail. I feel very trapped in all of my skills, talents, and I still feel like with all Nashville has to offer that people deserve more, and artists are the lifeblood of this city. Artists are why people moved here. I moved here as an artist. I've been through many ups and downs in my life that were not based on my ability to pull myself up by the bootstraps. You know, I've experienced lots of death, lots of health issues, and I just want to say that this bill would help everyone up, even the people just frustrated in traffic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Emery Hartz, also speaking on agenda item 82, the Transit Improvement Program.
Hello,
I'm Emery Hartz.
Ms. Hartz, can you move to the main podium?
Yes,
Thank you.
sorry.
No worries.
Hi, Emery Hartz here. I live at 913 Maplewood Avenue. I'm here to ask that you put Choose How You Move on the ballot. As you know, we have fallen behind our peer cities when it comes to infrastructure. Our development and growth is continuing to rise, and the cost is also continuing to rise. Now is the time to act. And I also have a personal story of riding the bus for several years to the point to where I've extended the life of my vehicle and was able to pass it down to my niece to use as her first car. So she wasn't, forced to buy a car of her own at 17 years old. So there's a lot of benefits to taking the bus. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hartz. We have 2 minutes remaining in our public comment time. Next is George Boyington, agenda item 82, regarding the Transit Improvement Program. Is George here? Okay. In lieu of George, we have Mary Beth Eichard, agenda item 82. Okay, the clock keeps ticking. Is Gabrielle Soto here? Okay. Mr. Soto, you have just 1 minute to speak
Okay.
on the Transit Improvement Program.
All right.
Go ahead, sir.
Hello, my name is Gabriel Wooten Soto. I live in Sylvan Park, but I work out north at a health center, serving a largely under and uninsured patient population. My job primarily consists of assessing our patients' social determinants of health and offering support where they need. It's quite fulfilling, but I do dread when I see a patient that has checked the box for a lack of transportation, just because there are so few options for Davidson County residents. Just yesterday, I helped a mother check in for her daughter's appointment. She had to take her whole day to get her daughter her 3-year well-child checkup. What's worse is the week prior, the two of them made the trip, the same trip, but they were too late for our walk-in availability, so they had to take 2 Mondays out to make an appointment that could have been 30 minutes. The same situation occurs when patients need referrals to St. Thomas or Vandy or any other specialist for things that we don't have at a primary care facility. It's already a lot to take off work for health to get a checkup, but figuring out transportation, especially when it's last minute and urgent, makes it even harder and more stressful than it needs to be. Thank you for your time, and I urge support for this.
Thank you. That concludes our public comment. Okay, next is agenda item H. This is a rule of procedure, a proposed amendment to Rule 13, sponsor Benedict. Ms. Benedict, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Okay, Chair Sepulveda.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Rules voted 6 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting for 1 meeting deferral.
Okay. All right. I'm going to come back to you, Ms. Benedict, because I think we had a kind of open question about Rule 8 as it relates to rules changes versus legislation. So we weren't explicit in that regard. Happy to acknowledge you briefly regarding your deferral. Back to you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I would like to move a 1 meeting deferral with a brief comment.
Is there a second?
Okay, so colleagues, as you know, I've been working on this for a few weeks. The reason for the deferral, I met with the council office today and we've made significant progress on this. And so I think that we'll be able to get to a good place. And I think that within the next 2 weeks that we should be able to get there. So I'll have an update for you in time for the next meeting. And I appreciate the council office's support as we work through this to try to find a best solution based on all of the information that we've been been sharing in regards to this rule change. So again, renew my motion, Vice Mayor.
Okay, there is a motion to defer this rule change one meeting, properly seconded, and you heard the reasoning of the sponsor. Is there any discussion on the motion to defer one meeting? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of the deferral, please say aye.
Aye.
Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, this will be deferred to the meeting of August 6th. Okay, next, as I shared at the top of our agenda, I'm going to recognize Councilwoman Johnston. Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'm requesting a suspension of the council rules 13, 7, and 31.
Okay, is there any objection to the suspension of the rules? Okay, Ms. Vo, are you objecting to a suspension of the rules? Okay. All right, the rules are not suspended. Ms. Johnson, you can timely file that, and we will take it up at the next meeting. Appreciate your intention in offering it. Okay. Okay. Okay, next we are on our consolidated consent agenda. All resolutions and second and third reading ordinances on this agenda are included on the consent agenda if recommended for approval unanimously by all committees to which the item was referred. Items on the consent agenda will be voted on at a single time. The item number, along with the resolution and the ordinance number of the items on the consent agenda, will be read by the presiding officer and shown on the screens here as well as at home and online. Members of the council may remove any item from the consent agenda by request before the consent agenda vote is taken. Okay. First is agenda item 1, resolution 2024-568. Next, agenda item 2, resolution 2024-581. Agenda item 3, resolution 2024-582. Agenda item 4, resolution 2024-583. Agenda item 5, resolution 2024-584. Agenda item 6, resolution 2024-585. Agenda item 7, resolution 2024-586. Agenda item 8, resolution 2024-587. Agenda item 9, resolution 2024-588. Agenda item 10, resolution 2024-589. Agenda item 11, resolution 2024-590. Agenda item 12, resolution 2024-591. Agenda item 14, resolution 2024-593. Agenda item 16, Resolution 2024-595. Agenda item 17, Resolution 2024-596. Agenda item 18, Resolution 2024-597. Agenda item 19, Resolution 2024-598. Agenda item 20, Resolution 2024-599. Agenda item 21, Resolution 2024-600. Agenda item 22, Resolution 2024-601. Agenda item 23, Resolution 2024-602. Agenda item 24, Resolution 2024-603. Agenda item 25, Resolution 2024-604. Agenda item 26, Resolution 2024-605. Agenda item 27, Resolution 2024-606. Agenda item 28, Resolution 2024-607. Agenda item 29, Resolution 2024-608. Moving next to bills on second reading proposed for the consent agenda. First among those is Agenda Item 40, Ordinance BL 2024-391. Next is Agenda Item 44, Ordinance BL 2024-442. Agenda Item 45, Ordinance BL 2024-443. Agenda Item 46, Ordinance BL 2024-444. Agenda Item 47, Ordinance BL 2024-445. Agenda Item 48, Ordinance BL 2024-446. Agenda Item 49, Ordinance BL 2024-447. Next, we're moving into bills on third reading proposed for the consent agenda. And first among those is Agenda Item 56, Ordinance BL 2024-335. Next is Agenda Item 57, Ordinance BL 2024-346. Agenda Item 58, Ordinance BL 2024-349. Agenda Item 59, Ordinance BL 2024-372. Agenda Item 60, Ordinance BL 2024-390. Agenda Item 61, Ordinance BL 2024-400. Agenda Item 62, Ordinance BL 2024-401. Agenda Item 63, Ordinance BL 2024-402. Agenda Item 64, Ordinance BL 2024-403. Agenda item 65, ordinance BL 2024-404. Agenda item 66, ordinance BL 2024-406. Agenda item 67, ordinance BL 2024-407. Agenda item 68, ordinance BL 2024-408. Agenda item 69, ordinance BL 2024-409. Agenda item 70, ordinance BL 2024-410. Agenda item 71, ordinance BL 2024-412. Agenda item 72, ordinance BL 2024-413. Agenda item 73, ordinance BL 2024-414. Agenda item 74, ordinance BL 2024-415. Agenda item 75, ordinance BL 2024-416. Agenda item 76, ordinance BL 2024-417. Agenda item 77, ordinance BL 2024-420. Agenda item 78, ordinance BL 2024-421. Agenda item 79, ordinance BL 2024-422. Agenda item 80, ordinance BL 2024-424. Agenda item 81, ordinance BL 2024-425. Agenda item 82, ordinance BL 2024-427. Agenda item 83, ordinance BL 2024-429. Agenda item 84, ordinance BL 2024-430. Agenda item 85, ordinance BL 2024-431. Agenda item 86, ordinance BL 2024-432. Agenda item 87, ordinance BL 2024-433. Agenda item 88, ordinance BL 2024-434. Agenda item 89, ordinance BL 2024-435. Agenda item 90, ordinance BL 2024-436. Agenda item 91, ordinance BL 2024-437. Agenda item 92, ordinance BL 2024-438. Agenda item 93, ordinance BL 2024-439. And lastly, agenda item 94, ordinance BL 2024-440. Okay, colleagues, do any items need to be removed from the consent agenda? If so, members, please join the queue to make your request. Councilman Prep T, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I'd like to remove agenda item number 31, BL 2024-469.
Mr. Prep that is not up yet. That's an item on first reading, which
Oh,
we
well,
do
never mind.
take together, consolidated, but separate from the consolidated consent agenda. No worries.
Thank you,
We
Madam
will
Vice
come
Mayor.
back to that after the consent agenda. Next, Councilman Huffman.
Thank you, Chair. Item number 26, RS 2024-605.
Okay, Mr. Huffman has requested that agenda item 26, RS 2024-605, be removed from consent. Next, Councilwoman Ewing, you're recognized.
Thank you. Could I take item 28, RS 2024-607 off, please?
Okay, Ms. Ewing has requested the removal of agenda item 28, RS 2024-607, will be removed from consent. Next, Ms. Gadd, you're recognized.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. I'd like to remove item 29, RS 2024-608.
Okay, that's agenda item 29, resolution 2024-608 by Ms. Gadd will be removed from consent.
Thank you.
Ms. Evans, Chair Evans, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to remove item number 17, RS 2024-596, please.
Okay, agenda item 17, resolution 596 will be removed from consent. Ms. Stiles, you're recognized, Chair Stiles.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. I'd like to take number 27, RS 2024-606 off, please.
Okay. Agenda item 27, resolution 606 will be removed from consent. Lastly, Mr. Taylor, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to remove item 25, RS 2024-604.
Okay. Agenda item 25, 604, that resolution number will be removed from consent. Okay. Ms. Webb, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I don't think it's on consent, but I just wanted to make sure RS 2024-592. Number 13.
No, ma'am, it is not
Okay,
proposed for the consent agenda. Are there any other members seeking to remove an item from the consent agenda? Ms. Evans Siegel?
Item 60, BL 2024-390.
Okay, item 60, okay, that is ordinance BL 2024-390. Okay, that's a third reading ordinance. That will be removed from consent. Okay, is there anyone else seeking to be recognized to remove an item from the consent agenda? Chair Parker, did you want to remove anything from the consent agenda? No, sir? Okay, just double checking. Okay. We will now go to our committee reports for items that remain on consent. And let me get that in order so I can recognize those chairs. Okay, first to you, Chair Porterfield for the report of the Budget and Finance Committee, please.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance considered the following items: RS 2024-582 down through 595, all of which passed 13 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. RS 2024-597, 13 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. 598, 12 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. 599, 600, and 601, 13 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. For second reading consent agenda, BL 2024-442, 443, 444, and 445, all passed 13 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay. Thank you, Chair Porterfield. Okay, next, Chair Stiles for the report of the Arts, Parks, Libraries, and Entertainment Committee, please, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. The committee voted on RS 2024-599, 600. That was 7 in favor, 0 against. And bills BL 2024-443 and also 444 also passed, 7 in favor, 0 against.
Okay, so those were both recommended for approval. And on resolutions, just to clarify, that was 599 and the separate resolution, Resolution 600.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. Next, Chair Bradford for the report of the Government Operations and Regulations Committee, sir. You have ordinance
BL 2024-442.
Yes, sir.
We approved, 6 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Okay. Next is the report of the Planning and Zoning Committee. Chair Gamble, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Planning and Zoning considered Resolution RS 2024-589, 591, 593, 602. BL 2024-443, 444, 446, 447, 335.
Okay, so now we're on to third reading
Yes,
ordinances.
third
Go
reading,
ahead.
yes.
Yep.
335, 346, 372, 400, 401, 402, 403, 404, 406, 407, 408, 409, 410, 412, 413, 414, 415, 416, 417, 420, 421, 422, 424, and 425. Recommended approval on most of those, 11 in favor, 0 against, or 10 in favor, 0 against.
Okay. Next, Chair Evans for the report of the Public Health and Safety Committee. Please, ma'am.
You're blocking my shot over here.
Yeah, members, hey. Chair Evans doing work there.
So we heard nothing but resolutions.
Okay.
And so everything I'm about to read was all recommended approval. 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. So we heard RS 2024-581, 582, 583, 584, 588, 597, and 598. All recommended approval, 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Evans. Okay, next, Chair Sepulveda for, okay. Okay, all pulled. Okay. You know it's going to be a longer night when everything that was going to be on Chair Sepulveda's report has been pulled and is no longer on consent. Okay. All right. So next then is the report of Transportation and Infrastructure Committee Chair Sean Parker. You're recognized, Chair Parker.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. On resolutions, we had RS 2024-601, 602, and 603. We recommended approval of all three of those, 7 in favor, 0 against. On bills on second reading, we had BL 2024-391, recommended approval, 8 in favor, 0 against. And then we had BL 2024-443 through 447, recommended approval of all of those, 7 in favor and 0 against. And is that
Go
the
ahead,
final?
sir. Yep.
With all committee reports in, I'll move the consolidated consent agenda.
Is there a second? Okay. The consent agenda has been moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion on the consolidated consent agenda? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay. You have passed all bills on the consolidated consent agenda. Okay. Now we're going to move back to items, most exciting of which is that transportation improvement program. So congratulations. All right. Now on then, I'll allow it. Okay. Okay, now we're going to move back to items that were not on the consent agenda, moving in order, starting with our resolutions, after which, Mr. Prep-T, we will come to our first reading ordinances regarding your matter. So, okay. First item on resolutions, not on the consent agenda, was agenda item 13, resolution 2024-592, sponsors Porterfield, Gamble, Welsh, Allen, and Swara. This is a resolution authorizing grants not exceeding $7 million from the Barnes Fund for Affordable Housing to William Franklin Buchanan Community Development Corporation for the express purpose of creating affordable or workforce housing utilizing American Rescue Plan Act funds. Ms. Porterfield, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports. Budget and Finance considered this item, voted 11 in favor, 0 against, 1 not voting.
Okay, thank you. Chair Gamble for the report of the Planning and Zoning Committee, please, ma'am. On 592, the cooperative housing.
Thank you. Planning and Zoning recommended approval, 11 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. All right, so it is back to you, Chair Porterfield, for a motion. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Move for approval.
Okay. Properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this matter? Okay, as I understand it, we will have an abstention. I believe that's why it's not on consent. Can that just be done by hand and recognized by the clerk? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any voting no? And please, if you are abstaining, please raise your hand so the clerk can recognize that. Is no one abstaining?
Looks like it's not, Vice Mayor.
All right. That bill or resolution rather has passed. Okay. Next is agenda item 15, resolution 2024-594, sponsors Porterfield, Gamble, Welsh, Allen, and Swara. This is a resolution to approve the Second Amendment to a grant contract for constructing affordable housing approved by RS 2022-1443 between the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by and through the Metropolitan Housing Trust Fund Commission and Urban Housing Solutions, Inc. Ms. Porterfield, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports. Budget and Finance voted 12 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting for the amendment. And we voted 12 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting for the item as amended.
Okay, thank you. Chair Gamble, to you on this bill for your report, please.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Planning and Zoning recommended approval on the amendment, 11 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting, and approval on the bill as amended, 11 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, thank you, Chair Gamble. Okay, and then it is back to you, Ms. Porterfield, for a motion on the bill to get it before us.
I would like to move for approval.
Is there a second? Okay, properly moved and seconded. It's back to you.
I would like to move the amendment.
Okay, is there a second? Do you want to give a brief explanation?
I would like to defer to Director Darby.
Okay, Ms. Darby, you are recognized for a brief explanation of the amendment, please.
This is a housekeeping amendment to specify which urban housing solutions agreement the amendment applies to.
Okay. So we are on a motion to amend, properly seconded, with an explanation from Ms. Darby. Are any members seeking to be recognized for discussion on this amendment? Seeing none, all in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, the amendment is on the bill, and Ms. Porterfield, we are back to you for a motion on your resolution as amended.
Move for approval as amended.
Is there a second? Okay, properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the resolution as amended? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, this resolution has passed as amended. Next is Agenda Item 17, Resolution 2024-596, sponsor Porterfield. This is a resolution authorizing the Metropolitan Department of Law to compromise and settle Maggie Lawrence's claim against the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County in the amount of $545,806.66 with $45,806.66 reflecting back pay to be paid from the Nashville Fire Department's operating budget, and the remaining $500,000 to be paid from the Judgments and Losses Fund. Ms. Porterfield, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports. Budget and Finance voted 12 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Without committee reports being in, I move for approval.
Is there a second? Properly moved and seconded. We're on discussion on the bill, and I see Ms. Evans seeking to be recognized. Go ahead, Ms. Evans.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I apologize I didn't get to ask some of these questions yesterday in Budget and Finance, and so appreciate the indulgence on getting some of my questions answered. In reading all the information, I think I want to hear, Director Dietz, from you, really about this case in particular, how we got to going to carrying it forward from a litigation perspective versus settling earlier in the process, and could you help me understand that?
Okay, Legal Director Dietz, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would ask my colleague, Ben Hoffman. Ben Puckett, who handled this case, I'd ask him to please speak
That's fine.
to the merits of the case.
Mr. Puckett, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Chair Evans, if I understand the question, it's how did we move? Was it why didn't we settle earlier? Is that okay? So I think really in this case, this was a problem of proof rather than a problem of policy. We strongly believed that the fire department did the right thing. We still believe that the fire department made the right decision. The problem really was proof in the end, which stemmed from how the office had struggled and had some difficulties. The fire marshal's office had struggled and had some difficulties maintaining records and keeping track of employee personnel evaluations, which led to sort of muddiness in the evidentiary record, if you will. The jury was then able to make inferences that, of course, we respectfully disagree with how the jury found, but we felt strongly at the time, and we still feel strongly, that the fire department made the right decision, and they didn't discriminate. But in the end, unfortunately, the jury disagreed.
Okay, so I'm just making sure I understand. So Metro felt like the fire department made the right decision to not promote the person who was filing the complaint or filing the litigation versus path that they took. They felt like that was the appropriate step, regardless of age, ethnicity, tenure, those kinds of things, because of the records that you're describing.
Mr. Puckett, go ahead.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I think that's correct. I think we believed that there was no discrimination involved. We still believe that. And we think that there was plenty of evidence to support that. And in the end, unfortunately, the inferences that the jury was able to make led them to an alternate conclusion.
Okay, and so I guess then my follow-up question, I've got two. Follow-up question for Metro Legal is around, from an employee perspective, did we feel like we could say that this leader was given ample opportunity to correct behaviors and those kinds of things? Can you help me understand that part?
Okay, Attorney Puckett, do you want to take that?
Sure,
Okay.
yes. Yes, I think the individual involved was given opportunities to correct the behavior. I think some of it stemmed, again, from the difficulties that the fire marshal's office was experiencing at that time. I would note that the fire marshal's office has improved since then and is not experiencing those difficulties any longer. And so I think the individual was given an opportunity to improve and to become more qualified along the road, yes.
Okay, thank you. And then Vice Mayor, am I able to ask Nashville Fire a question? That's my last question that I have. If you don't want me to, I will not do it.
I would prefer that we not get in the pattern of, I think,
That's fine.
if the administration thinks that
Then I'll
the fire
send-
department, then they'll need to be on.
Okay, then I'll just send an email then to Director Darby, and maybe I can get my last question answered that way.
Thank you,
I
Chair
appreciate
Evans.
it. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay. All right, so we have a motion to approve. It was properly seconded. I do not see any other members seeking to be recognized for discussion on this resolution. Okay, with that, we'll move to the vote. All in favor of the motion to approve, please say aye. Any voting no? Any abstaining? Okay, this resolution has passed. Okay, next we are moving to agenda item 25. Resolution 2024-604, sponsors Taylor, Toombs, Stiles, Porterfield, Vo, Swara, Gamble, Lee, Ellis, Huffman, Hill, Welsh, Hancock, Nash, Rutherford, Webb, Evans, Wiener, Evans, Siegel, Spain, Parker, Allen, Cap, Ewing, Coopin, Benedict, and Kimbrough. This is a resolution honoring the life of former council member, or rather member of council, Edith Taylor Langster. You're recognized, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you. Committee reports.
Chair Sepulveda or Vice Chair Prep T. Vice Chair Prep T, you're recognized for the report of the Rules, Confirmations, and Public Elections Committee.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. The committee considered RS 2024-604 and voted 4 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay. All right, it's back to you, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you. I generally don't pull things off of consent, but I deem this very worthy.
Can we get a motion on your bill,
Oh,
sir?
so sorry.
No worries.
Motion for approval.
Is there a second? Okay, go ahead,
All
sir.
right. All the stuff I said and then the rest. But I deem this extremely worthy. Miss Edith is what I called her, but you can call her representative, you can call her officer, you can call her councilwoman, Edith Taylor Langster. She served this body for many, many years, but she came back. She served it once and then came back again. And she also was a state representative for the state of Tennessee. She was the first female patrol officer, the first female officer, the first black female officer here in Nashville. She served this city longer than many of us wish we could ever do. She served this city her entire life for the most part. From the moment she moved here and went to TSU until the moment that she met her father and her savior, she was serving the city. And so I want you all just to know and join me in celebrating the life well lived, a life of a Nashvilleian that loved this place, that loved every one of you, up into the last council meeting before she passed. She would call us and ask us. She would call me and tell me to button my suit jacket or to just whatever it may be, right? Stand up, speak louder. But she loved this place. She watched us and she critiqued it. She never called me to get anything done because she knew everybody in the city. But she was a great leader, a passionate leader, and a great woman, and a great Nashvilleian. And so I salute you, Representative, Officer, Councilwoman Taylor Lankster.
Well said. Thank you, Mr. Taylor, for bringing that bill. Seeing no one else seeking discussion on the bill, we can move to the vote. All in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, we have passed this resolution. Next is agenda item 26, resolution 2024-605, sponsors Huffman, Nash, Coopin, Weiner, Rutherford, Spain, Druffel, Gadd, Welsh, Hancock, Benton, Evans, Allen, Webb, Swara, Prep T, Eastlick, Stiles, and Gamble. Mr. Huffman, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Move for approval with a brief comment.
We need to get our committee report first,
Committee
please,
reports,
sir.
please.
Yep, Vice Chair Prep T, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Rules Confirmation and Public Election Committee considered RS 2024-605 and voted 4 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay. Now it's back to you, Mr. Huffman, for a motion on your bill, sir.
Move for approval with a brief comment.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, go ahead, sir.
All right, thank you, colleagues. I will save you some time because I actually timed it out. Rocky Top actually is about 2 minutes and 25 seconds. I considered a rendition, which I know all of y'all would appreciate, but I'll refrain from that. What I am going to do tonight is congratulate the University of Tennessee baseball team on a successful season, which captured the National Baseball Championship. Record of 60-13 is truly incredible in the college baseball realms. But one of the biggest reasons that I did this, outside of my son is literally named Neeland, it is in his blood to be a Tennessee fan, for better or for worse. We have 2 members of this baseball team that have either ties to Nashville or ties to this chamber directly. The first being District 14 resident Andrew Binke, who is a pitcher, sophomore on the baseball team. Very, very proud to call him a constituent. And also Kavaris Tears, who is a cousin to the one and only Brandon Taylor, who I want to note did not co-sponsor my amendment for his deep hatred of the University of Tennessee. So with that, colleagues, I ask for your approval.
Okay, seeing no one else seeking discussion. Mr. Taylor? No, kidding. Okay, we have a motion properly seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, we have passed this resolution. Next is agenda item 27, Resolution 2024-606, sponsors Stiles, Vo, Gadd, Taylor, Welsh, Eastlick, and Coopin. This is a resolution recognizing July 2024 as Parks and Recreation Month in Nashville and Davidson County. Chair Stiles, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. I just wanted to take a moment. I see that former Councilmember Roten is not here, but I just wanted
Ms.
to...
Stiles, if you would, ask for your committee report, please, ma'am.
My fault.
No worries. Vice Chair Prep T, you're recognized for the committee report.
Thank you,
Rules,
Madam Vice
please.
Mayor. Rules Confirmation and Public Elections Committee considered RS 2024-606 and voted 4 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, now Chair Stiles, it's back to you for a motion on your resolution, please.
I got excited. Okay.
It's Parks, we're all excited.
Yes, I'd like to move for approval with a brief comment, if I may.
Okay, properly moved and seconded. Back to you. Go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to thank our park staff for all of the work that they're doing, particularly in this heat wave and keeping up our rec centers and allowing programming for kids, keeping them active. And I wanted to apply, I'm saying it, Murphy rule on this, whoever votes in the
That is now called Rule 12.3.
But it
Ms.
doesn't have the
Stiles.
same fun sound to it.
Yeah, I gotcha. But it's Rule 12.3
Yes.
now. Okay.
But yes, so that we can celebrate all the great work that they're doing, and yes.
Okay,
We're
so
appreciative.
you are making a motion for Rule 12.3, and that is properly seconded. So without objection, we will apply Rule 12.3. And so we're, I guess, back to you. So we've got a motion for the bill to approve it with Rule 12.3, such that all members voting in the affirmative will be signed on as co-sponsors. Okay?
Yes, please.
And Ms. Vo, so we're on to discussion, Ms. Stiles. Ms. Vo, you're recognized.
Thank you so much, Vice Mayor. I'm really excited about July being Parks and Recreation Month, and I just wanted to share a quick story. So last night we met to talk about the Dudley Park improvements that have been so needed for decades. And I'll never forget, a mom asked me when I was the neighborhood leader, can we please fix this swing because it's broken for my daughter and her friend to swing together. So then I reached out to Parks, and they came and met with me, and they explained to me this swing set is actually, not compliant. So unfortunately, we're gonna have to wait. There's a long line, and so I kept advocating and kept figuring out a way to how do we get this swing set, how do we get this playground for them. And so because of participatory budgeting, I want to thank everyone in the community for participating in that, because last night I got to tell the mom and the daughter that years later, it took like 7 years, but and she's a bit older now, but she'll get to swing on that swing set and play on that playground, early next year. And I think that's really important, the power of the parks and recreation. Our families want to spend time outside, and I'm really hoping that I'm very excited this family gets to do that, and all the new families too. So I want to appreciate all the parks staff and team for all that they do for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vo. Anyone else seeking discussion on Resolution 606 about Parks and Recreation Month? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, we have passed this resolution. Next is Agenda Item 28, Resolution 2024-607, sponsors Ewing, Coopin, and Swara. This is a resolution recognizing July 2024 as Disability Pride Month in Nashville and Davidson County. Councilmember Ewing, you are recognized, ma'am.
Thank you. Committee reports, please.
Vice Chair Prep T, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Rules Confirmation and Public Elections Committee considered RS 2024-607 and voted 4 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Thank you, sir. Back to you, Ms. Ewing, for a motion on your bill.
I'd like to move for approval with a brief comment.
Go ahead. Is there a second? Yep.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So there are times when, rather than using my own words, it's more appropriate and apt to use the words of someone else who is quite eloquent. So with her permission, I am repeating the words of Christy Pruitt-Hayes regarding Disability Pride Month. This is Disability Pride Month, and I have to say I struggle a bit with that title. I'm not proud to have a disability. I never would have chosen to be legally blind. I am not proud that I no longer can drive or navigate spaces by myself at night, or have extreme difficulty navigating new and unfamiliar spaces, regardless of the level of light. I'm not proud that I constantly bump into other people or objects in crowded spaces because I don't see them there. I'm not proud that I'm prone to miss a step and trip over things, or that I have to have the brightness on my phone turned up so much that it literally hurts other people's eyes to look at it. I'm not proud that I have to enlarge my font, and even then sometimes struggle to read things. I'm not proud that teleprompters rarely help me at all because I can't see them. But what I am extremely proud of is that I am able to do all of these things that I want and need to do in spite of having to find new and innovative ways of accomplishing them. I am proud that I am resourceful enough to figure out how to do things that others don't even have to think about. I am proud that I am able to speak effortlessly off the top of my head so that I don't need a teleprompter. I am proud that I can remember the layout of a space after walking through it once. But do you know what else I am? I am tired of having to explain why I need certain accommodations. I am tired of people questioning my visual ability because they can tell I'm not fully blind. I am tired of businesses not being set up in such a way that I can easily access spaces that would otherwise be available to me. So all in all, maybe Pride is an appropriate name for this month, but more important than having a month dedicated to the millions of us who live with visible and invisible disabilities, it is my hope that the rest of the world recognizes the value we bring. It is my hope that others realize when you make spaces accessible to those of us with disabilities, it improves the experience for everyone. It is my hope that organizations realize that if someone is brilliant enough to figure out how to do their job in a way that works for them, then they are brilliant enough to help that company be successful. Let's all stop making assumptions that everyone works, thinks, sees, speaks, navigates spaces, etc., the same way we do. Instead, let's prioritize embracing the diversity that exists in all of us, because when we do, everyone benefits. Thank you, Christy Pruitt-Hayes. I'd like to, excuse me, I'd like to invoke 12.3 if I possibly could
Okay, so
as well.
you would like to motion or Rule 12.3?
Motion, yes.
Such that, okay. And properly moved and seconded with no objection, we will just apply that rule to your main motion.
Thank you.
So that all those voting in the affirmative will be listed as co-sponsors. Thank you, Ms. Ewing. Mr. Coupin, you're recognized, sir. Well, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm rising in support of this bill, and I want to thank my colleague for bringing it. We've talked about this quite a bit, but we are a Nashville for all, including those who are differently abled, and that's something that I hold close to home. I've got a number of people that are very close to me that suffer from both mental and physical disabilities, and it's something I hold in my heart on a regular basis and something that I care very deeply about, and so was proud to sign on as a co-sponsor to this, and I want all the folks that are watching at home and hearing us know that no matter what ability or different ability that someone has, we as the council stand with y'all. We are a Nashville for all, and we continue to share that message. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coupin. Are any other members seeking to be recognized? Okay, there's a motion to approve with Rule 12.3 applied, properly seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay. We have also passed this resolution. Okay, last among our resolutions, agenda item 29, resolution 2024-608. Sponsors Gadd, Allen, Coupin, Porterfield, Evans, Welsh, Wiener, Suara, Benedict, Ewing, Webb, Hill, Gamble, Stiles, Cash, Johnston, Lee, Vo, and Spain is a resolution expressing the Metropolitan Council's support of the January 2025 Athletes Unlimited Pro Basketball season at Nashville Municipal Auditorium. Ms. Gadd, Sponsor Gadd, you're recognized.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. I would like to ask for committee reports.
We'll do that first. Vice Chair Prep T, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. The Rules Confirmation and Public Elections Committee considered RS 2024-608 and voted 4 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay, now it's back to you for a motion on your bill, Ms. Gadd.
I would like to make a motion for deferral to the second meeting in August with a short comment.
Okay, is there a second for the motion to defer to the second meeting in August? Okay, go ahead, Ms. Gadd.
All right, thank you so much for those who have signed on to this, and for those who have not, you still have an opportunity. But this is a wonderful resolution. The group's working on their attendance here is going to spend a little bit more time meeting. So hopefully by the end of August, by the time we come back, we'll be ready to rock and roll with this resolution. But this is really going to be an opportunity for professional women's sports and professional women basketball players who are the owners of Athletes Unlimited to really be able to bring that sporting and the professionals here in Nashville for us all to enjoy women's sports, women's professional sports together in January. So with that, I will move for deferral.
Okay, thank you. So it's a 2-meeting deferral, properly moved and seconded. Anyone else seeking discussion on the deferral? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, this is deferred to the second meeting in August. Okay, We are now moving into section K of our agenda, bills on introduction and first reading. Without objection, all items on first reading may be voted on at the same time. But I do know that we have one item that we want to remove from that. Let's see. And so, Mr. Prep-T, let's see, if you would just go ahead and articulate that, please, sir, so that we can remove that from this consolidated motion. So, oh, I'm sorry. Whoop, you had, Ms. Gadd, you were still lit up. I was seeing green in my eyes there. Go ahead.
All right, thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I would like to remove agenda item 31 from the consolidated first reading agenda. So item 31 is BL 2024-469.
Okay, that will be so moved and done. Is anyone else seeking to remove an item from a consolidated vote of all the other items on first reading? Ms. Benedict, you're recognized, ma'am.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'm actually trying to get in the queue. I don't have any requests to pull anything.
Okay, off of first. Okay. Anyone else seeking to move anything from the consolidated vote of all items on first reading, with the exception of agenda item 31, Mr. Prep-T's bill will not be in the consolidated motion. Okay. Seeing none, all in, well, and no further, I need a motion, please. And a second. Okay. Seeing no further discussion on the items on first reading, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, so we have passed all items on first reading with the exception of agenda item 31, ordinance BL 2024-469. And so now we're back to you, Mr. Prep-T. This is 469 is sponsored Prep-T, Porterfield, Toombs, Swara, Benedict, Vo, Gadd, Welsh, Lee, Bradford, and Kimbrough. This is an ordinance amending chapter 2.44 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws pertaining to the operations of the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department. You're recognized, Mr. Prep-T.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I would like to move for a 3-meeting deferral with a comment.
Okay, is there a second for the 3-meeting deferral motion? Okay, properly moved and properly seconded. We are on discussion regarding the 3-meeting deferral. Go ahead, sir, with your comment.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. So one of the most fundamental roles that our local government plays is ensuring that our city has good governance and that every single member of our community feels safe at home. The goal and intent of this bill is to ensure that every person in our community and in our city, regardless of race, color, or national origin, can have confidence in our city and in our institutions tasked with their safety. Unfortunately, the reality is that throughout the South, we still live with the residual effects of a legacy of our institutions being targeted by criminal hate groups and unlawful militias to be the entities that perpetuate political violence against constitutionally protected citizens. The time is now for us to address this legacy head on and to address it without fear or hesitation. Now, I want to be 100% clear. The overwhelming majority of our officers serve our community with honor, integrity, and with respect for the oath that they take to serve and protect. And across America and across the political spectrum, we are grateful for their work and dedication, especially this evening. However, what we know is that these criminal groups specifically seek to recruit within law enforcement. The FBI and our federal partners in our national security apparatus have specifically stated that this is a historic and continuing threat to our national security. These groups undermine the lawful, they undermine law enforcement's efficiency, reputation, and the trust both within the agency and in the community. This profound degradation truly impedes the ability of our law enforcement agencies to fully execute their mission. Now, as a Metro Council member, but also as a civil rights attorney, I understand people's concerns with the First Amendment implications. And that is why I'm seeking this 3-meeting deferral, so that we can address those head on, so that we can have a fair opportunity to hear, debate, and to face this head on. I'm working with Metro Legal, working with MNPD, and our various other public safety institutions on this bill. So with that, I would ask all of my colleagues to support this 3-meeting deferral so that we can continue this work and so that we can have a free and fair opportunity to continue to debate and improve our city and our institutions. And with that, Madam Vice Mayor, I renew my motion.
Thank you, Mr. Prepty. So there is a motion for a 3-meeting deferral that has been properly seconded. Sponsor Prepty has explained the nature or the reason for the deferral. Is anyone seeking to be recognized for discussion on the deferral? Seeing none, all in favor of a 3-meeting deferral, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, this has been deferred. The first reading of this bill has been deferred 3 meetings. Okay. Now that gets us back to second reading bills that were not on our consent agenda. Okay. Are we good on quorum? Doing a quorum check. Okay. As someone slides back in the door there. Okay. Next is agenda item 38. This is ordinance BL 2024-343. Sponsors Stiles, Coopin, Eastlick, Vaux, Ewing, Swara, and Welsh. This is an ordinance to amend chapter 2.112 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws regarding the membership of the Metropolitan Nashville Arts Commission and the process for approving the criteria for awarding funds. Colleagues, I just wanted to take an opportunity here when we've got a long roster of amendments, because I know there has been some confusion about how many we took those up last term versus this term. It is not my intent to go through our amendment items as if they were a menu. Okay, we will go first to the sponsor. And if the sponsor wants to offer an amendment in the midst of their discussion time, they can do that. And then when their time has passed, if we're on the bill, if we're on a bill as amended, when we are on discussion of the bill or the bill is amended, it is then proper at that time to get into the queue so that you can be recognized, and a motion to amend with another amendment is a proper motion at that time, okay? So I will rely on you as members to advance the amendments that you choose rather than going through them like a menu, okay? Just for clarity, so that's going to happen a few times this evening. So I just wanted to make sure it was clear for everyone, as this is the first among those that we will encounter. Okay, Chair or Stiles or Sponsor Stiles, you are recognized on this first bill. And did I read the caption? Okay, thank you. Ordinance BL 2024-343, Sponsor Stiles, Coopin, Eastlick, Vaux, Ewing, Swara, and Welsh. This is an ordinance to amend chapter, I think I did. I did read it. Yep, I did read it. It's been a night. Okay. That bill, we're on it. Okay. Ms. Stiles, you go.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. Committee report, thank you.
Rightly said, Chair Sepulveda. Ms. Stiles, you have asked Ms. Sepulveda for the committee report, and I have acknowledged you. Go ahead, Ms. Sepulveda.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. On Amendment 1, rules voted 4 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. On Amendment 2, rules voted 4 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Amendment 3 was not offered. On Amendment 4, rules voted 2 in favor, 1 against, 2 not voting. On the late filed nature of Councilmember Swara's amendment, rules voted 5 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting, and we're okay with it. On the amendment itself, rules voted 6 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. And on the resolution as amended, rules voted 4 in favor, 1 against, 1 not voting.
Okay. Let me just make sure I've got it all down. Okay, you've heard the committee report of Chair Sepulveda, and so it is now back to you, Ms. Stiles. Oh, I'm sorry, as well, the report of Budget and Finance Committee Chair Porterfield. Thank you. Go ahead, Chair Stiles, or Chair Porterfield.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance considered Amendment 1 and voted 12 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Amendment 2, 9 in favor, 2 against, and 1 not voting. Amendment 3 was not moved. Amendment 4 was passed, 6 in favor, 5 against, 1 not voting. And over the legislation as amended was 8 in favor, 3 against, and 1 not voting.
Okay. Okay, that's a lot to keep up with, colleagues. All righty. Okay. Now, with committee reports in, Ms. Stiles, it is back to you on your bill.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. I would like to move for approval. Can I speak on each amendment while I'm here?
What you can do is let's make a motion to get the bill properly before us, if you want to make that motion. And then I'll recognize you at that juncture, then it is proper for you to move an amendment after that.
Fantastic. I'd like to move for approval, please.
Is there a second? Okay, properly moved and seconded. So we're back to you on your bill.
Colleagues, so this is the bill that we started discussing a couple of months ago. This would put a member of the Arts, Parks, Library, and Entertainment would come up with a nominee, come up with someone that would be put on the commission. I keep getting confused with one of the amendments. And then also, we as a body would approve this new grants criteria as we are getting finances in order in Metro Arts and getting things straightened out with the Thrive grants and also giving money to muralists. That process would come before us, and we would vote on it. So we are in the know, as we have been kept in the dark for quite some time.
Are you seeking to make a motion to amend at this time? That is a proper motion during your time.
Yes, I would like to amend the bill, please.
With what amendment, Ms. Stiles?
With Councilmember Allen's first amendment.
Okay, that for our agenda is proposed Amendment 1, sponsor Allen. So you've made a motion to amend your bill. Is there a second? Okay, and so now we're back to you, Ms. Stiles, on your motion to amend with Amendment 1. Go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Allen, I appreciate her time and her efforts. She has done some housekeeping, cleaning up in the code, as well as clarifying that this person would serve for 2 years, and also makes it clear that the member that goes would be an ex officio member, so they would not be voting.
Okay, and so now we're on discussion of Amendment 1. Ms. Allen, are you seeking to be recognized on the amendment? Okay, go ahead, Ms. Allen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just put my name in the queue so I could speak on Amendments 1 and 2, but Councilmember Stiles has done a good job.
Okay.
So if you can keep me up there for Amendment 2, I may be back.
Okay. Okay. All right. Is there anyone else seeking to speak specifically on Amendment 1? Ms. Porterfield or Ms. Vo, you are both in the queue, not on Amendment 1 in particular. Okay. Seeing no other members seeking to discuss the motion to amend with Amendment 1, all those in favor of Amendment 1, please say aye. Aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, so the amendment is on your bill, Ms. Stiles, so we are back to you if you want to make a motion to approve your bill as amended. Oh, sorry, Dee recognized you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Yes, I would like to move the bill as amended.
Okay, so there's a motion to approve the bill as amended with Amendment 1. Is there a second for that motion? Okay. All right, so we have the bill. We have Amendment 1 on, and you do not have a second. Oh, I apologize. Okay. There is a second for your motion to amend with Amendment 1, or rather to approve the bill with Amendment 1 on it. Okay, that's what's before us. It's properly seconded. Is there discussion on the bill now? Okay, Ms. Allen, you are recognized
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did want to move Amendment 2 if that's the appropriate thing to do at this point.
You can do that now. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Okay, then I'll stand up. Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to move Amendment 2 with a brief explanation.
Okay, is there a second for the motion to move Amendment 2? Okay, there's a second.
Thank you.
Do you have a point of order, Ms. Stiles? Okay, Ms. Stiles, you're recognized for a point of order.
Forgive me, because I thought we needed to go through one by one, because I did want to touch on Amendment 2 and 4 and 5. Did I need to do that all in that one section? Or does she talk about 2 and then we come back to the next?
Is that clarified? I'm not going to go through them like they're a menu, okay? So when you have been recognized, you can make a motion and we can put that amendment on. And so now what is before us is a motion to approve this bill as amended with Amendment 1. Now, in the space of that discussion, it is proper for any member to be recognized in the order of the queue and to offer any of the other amendments.
Awesome.
Ms. Allen has been recognized, and now she is offering, as I understand it, Amendment 2, and that has been seconded. And so now we are in discussion of the motion to amend with Amendment 2.
Okay.
Okay?
Now I'm clarified.
Got it. Ms. Allen, you're recognized.
Thank you. Amendment 2 simply makes a change from the way we would reconsider or that we would look at the criteria that would come before us. Currently, this bill proposes that is done by ordinance every year. This amendment would change that to a resolution every year, simply to streamline the process and to ensure that we don't slow down the process of awarding artists funding so that they can get their art going. There is a late filed amendment that Councilmember Suara may propose that is very similar to this, which I'm supportive of, but since it is late filed and you never know, I would recommend that people pass this one just to be sure that we have done this. And then if Councilmember Suara can talk about her amendment, which is similar, but is a little more nuanced and allows us the opportunity to use the ordinance in the years that the criteria actually change, and would leave us to do it by resolution, which is more streamlined in years that it's exactly the same. So I am moving Amendment 2, and all that does is change the process to a resolution, which would make that a more streamlined process. And I would ask for your support.
Okay, there's a motion to amend the bill with Amendment 2 from Ms. Allen. It's properly seconded, and we are now on discussion of Amendment 2. Ms. Porterfield, are you seeking to be recognized on Amendment 2? Ms. Stiles, you are next in the queue. Are you seeking to be recognized on Amendment 2? Go ahead, ma'am. You are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I am okay with Council Member Allen's second amendment to put it on now. I do think Council Member Suara's amendment would supersede hers, and it does fix the situation. Guess my question is, can I also discuss the other ones now? I'm still slightly confused on that.
No.
Okay.
We are discussing Amendment 2 right now.
I support Amendment 2.
Okay. Is any other member seeking to be recognized on the motion to amend this bill with Amendment 2? Okay. Ms. Vo or Ms. Suara? Okay. Seeing no one else seeking discussion on the motion to amend with Amendment 2, all those in favor of Amendment 2, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay. You are a no vote. Okay. On the amendment. Okay. Ms. Darby, can we just recognize that on amendment? We can just, okay. Okay, so we are now on the bill with amendments 1 and 2 are on. And then I guess, Ms. Stiles, we are, let's see, back to you, ma'am, on your bill. Do you have a point of order, Ms. Porterfield? Go ahead, Ms. Porterfield, point of order.
I do have a point of order, Vice Mayor. I'm next in queue, and I would like to move an amendment.
Okay, so what is before us at this time, Ms. Darby, to restate, is the bill for a motion. Do we have a motion to approve the bill with both the second and the first and second amendments on? Okay, okay. Oh, as we talked it all through, and here we are. Okie dokes. Okay. I guess if we're moving in proper order, what do you advise, Ms. Darby, at this juncture? Because okay. Okay, so Ms. Stiles, do you have a point of order? Ms. Allen, thank you.
I think this is a point of order. I just think through the budget process where we have sometimes had multiple amendments and we did not go back through each time and remove it with all those. We just worked our way through the ones until we exhausted those possibilities.
I appreciate that.
As long as there were people in the queue. That seems like a reasonable way to do it.
Yeah, no, I do appreciate that. Thank you. Okay. I think let's proceed as indicated when we started. And so I know we have amended the bill at this juncture with both amendments 1 and 2. There is, Ms. Darby, from a background perspective, right, we have a motion to approve this bill. Then we had a motion to approve as amended with Amendment 1. And I guess then we are lacking sort of a motion to approve as amended with Amendment 1 and 2. Okay, at the advice of Ms. Darby, I'm going to go back to you, Ms. Stiles, for a motion to approve the bill with amendments 1 and 2.
May I ask a quick
Let's
clarifying
first
question?
make the motion so we get it before us, okay?
Okay. I motion to approve the bill with amendments 1 and 2.
Okay, is there a second for that motion? Okay, so there is a second. So we are now on discussion of the motion to approve with amendments 1 and 2. Ms. Stiles, we will.
Point of order.
Yeah, go ahead, Ms. Porterfield. Go ahead.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. We don't typically go back to the sponsor every time. So I just want to make sure that we're clear on how we're doing the process, because that's a new thing. So is that how we're going to do this going forward, or I would just like clarity on that?
No, I appreciate that.
I haven't.
Hang on, Ms. Stiles, I appreciate that. Ms. Darby, as we sort of spoke this through about how we would be taking these up, can you advise at this juncture, because we discussed how we were going to do this, and then I think as we've gotten into it, we've seen somewhat of a challenge in that approach. And so go ahead. Go ahead. This is to answer Ms. Porterfield's point of order.
So in the past, as Councilmember Allen stated, we would kind of go through and address each amendment 1, 2, 3, 4, and get a vote on each one. With the scenario that you described at the beginning of this, if we're going to wait for people to go in to be recognized in the queue before making their motion to amend, then it does seem appropriate to go back to the sponsor after each amendment to get a motion to approve with that amendment that was approved, and then go back for discussion, and then the next person in the queue can be recognized to move their amendment or for discussion on the bill as amended.
Okay. All right. I'm going to take all this under advisement, colleagues. I appreciate that we're having a little point of confusion on this based how we kind of discussed it ahead of time and where we are now. But given, let's just not kind of change midstream, okay? I think we're just going to proceed through this as we discussed to start, just from a fairness perspective, okay? And then we may, at the end of that, recognize that that was a tedious approach, and we're going to try that in a different way, okay? But for now, Ms. Stiles, we are back to you, and I know, Ms. Porterfield, you called your point of order, but I can't recall, Ms. Stiles, if that was prior to you making a motion to approve with amendments 1 and 2. Have you made that motion yet?
I did.
Okay.
Yes.
So what is before us is a motion to amend, or rather, a motion to approve the bill as amended with Amendment 1 and 2. And I was going to go to Ms. Stiles for discussion on that point when you called a point of order. Has your point of order been not resolved ideally, but addressed? Okay. All right. Ms. Stiles, it is back to you.
I'd like to move for approval, please.
Okay, okay, so there's a motion to approve properly seconded of the bill as amended with amendments 1 and 2. Is there any discussion on that now? Okay, at which point we go to the queue, and Ms. Porterfield, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I would like to move Amendment 4 for approval with comment.
Is there a second for the motion to approve with Amendment 4? Okay, so we are on the motion to approve with Amendment 4 properly seconded. This is a proper motion on the discussion on the bill as amended for approval. So go ahead, Ms. Porterfield. You're recognized on Amendment 4.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and thank you for explaining everything and going through this process. Colleagues, Amendment 4 fixes the dates and the terms, as we've seen in one of the other amendments. It also moves this to a resolution instead of an ordinance. The bill as filed would have it going before a committee, and then we would still have to have 3 readings, which would then cause this to have 4 readings. We don't typically do that on anything else. And if we're talking about trying to make this process more equitable, that's actually putting more barriers in place and slowing down the artist's ability to get paid. This also removes the council member from the bill. And there are several concerns about having a council member first sitting on this commission. First and foremost, there is a working group right now that's looking at how we do our boards and commissions. We need to give that group the opportunity to discuss when it's appropriate for a council member to serve on a board or commission. There are some boards and commissions in which it would be beneficial and in which a council member's expertise could be used. However, it is not, we don't need to piecemeal this and just pick and choose which boards we think may need a council member at any random time without us going through that process. There are over 80 boards and commissions. At that rate, council members will be serving on an extra 2 boards each. In addition to this, if we don't have someone sitting on our school board in which we are allocating $1 billion to that board, if we don't have a council member sitting on that board talking about how we are spending money, I'm not really sure as to why we would need that here. A council member has the opportunity to have an undue influence on their board. At just a commission meeting that I was at about a week or 2 ago, there was a lot of deference that was shown to council members that were in the audience. And when council members made statements, people stopped and started addressing council members during the meeting outside of their rules and procedures because people are going to show deference to council members. If boards need support, then we need to provide support for that board. Putting a council member on the board is equivalent to giving a person a fish instead of teaching them how to fish. The purpose of boards and commissions is to democratize our government and to democratize the process. So if they need support, we need to give that support. We heard that the commission asked for this. On your desk, you'll see a letter from one of the commissioners who stated that they did not ask for this. We also got a second letter from a commissioner who stated that they did not ask for this. And when I spoke to the chair directly, the executive board voted to defer to the will of the council, but made it clear that they did not ask for this. The support that they asked for was support with their rules. Council members can work with commissions at any point in time, but to pick one board without going through the process of looking at the other boards just seems unfair. So I asked for support and that people will vote yes on this amendment.
Okay, there is a proper motion to amend the bill with Amendment 4 properly seconded. You've heard a description of the bill, and we are on discussion of the motion to amend with Amendment 4. Next in the queue, Ms. Stiles, regarding the motion to amend with Amendment 4.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. I am adamantly opposed to this amendment. I think what we've seen over the course of the last year is a lot of confusion on the commission, whether it was previous commissioners or current commissioners. There have been questions that have been asked that haven't been answered. And I had a conversation with both the interim director today and the chair. They had an executive meeting last night. One of the emails came from the secretary, and both the director and the chair did not approve that. So we should not have received it from that individual. And to the point about council members serving on boards and commissions, this is not opening the door for us to try and put council members on all 80 boards and commissions. There are certain commissions that are much more front-facing. This department happens to be on fire. I don't think that it is fair to constituents or the commission that we do our, backroom conversations and debate back and forth and wait several months while this department has an immediate need and has had an immediate need for quite some time. New commissioners that are there have been confused. We had one commissioner that was chair of a committee and it got so heated in a meeting, they stepped down right after that meeting. There are things that a council member being present, if they're not voting, I don't think there's undue influence. And particularly on this commission, the way that it's set up, council members are only allowed to speak during public comment. And if you raise your hand, as I did at one of the meetings, I was told by Laura Fox in legal that the public wasn't allowed to speak. And so I had to wait and listen to a debate back and forth that I was not allowed to participate in. So while I appreciate the work of the boards and commission work group, we heard from Mr. Rosenberg, there's legislation coming months from now that addresses this. When there's an immediate need, we are here to serve constituents. If they have expressed there is a problem, us sitting back and saying, oh, we're getting around to it, we're having discussions about how to fix your problem that you've been going through for months. That's not the solution. And so while there is a need also from the commission for us to support with grants, there has been a need expressed in having a council member present as well. And so I am not in favor of Amendment 4. And I encourage you to vote no as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, you have heard Ms. Stiles as part of discussion on the motion to amend with Amendment 4 that was made by Ms. Porterfield. Ms. Swara, are you seeking to be recognized on Amendment 4? Okay. Ms. Evans, we're on discussion of the motion to amend with Amendment 4. Are you seeking to be recognized on Amendment 4? Okay. Ms. Evans, you are recognized.
Did you, and I apologize, did you skip Ms. Webb? I noticed her in the queue before, or she's right after me, never mind.
She's after you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, not skipping anybody.
I
Yep.
appreciate that.
Yep.
So normally I would be all in on this amendment because I really love going in order, doing it slow, all those things. But I've spent probably the last, since last fall, when things started coming to light, like I have listened to every single meeting as soon as they started being recorded. I have attended several in-person MHRC meetings about this issue. And as far as thinking about every board and commission having a council member, I would never in a million years support that. But the reality is that hearing all of this information and seeing this process, I cannot help but think if we had elected somebody to be even a non-voting member as part of this commission, things would not have gone off the rails the way that they did. I think some things happened the way they happened and it would have played out that way. But I think that having the expertise of somebody that was elected by this group to be a part of that body, even if it's in a non-voting capacity, would have made things way better than how they ended up turning out in the long run. And so I'm not going to spend any more time talking about it, but I'm not going to support the amendment, even though if this were a normal time, I would be supporting it just based on what I've witnessed and what I've conversations that I've had. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Webb, are you seeking to be recognized on the motion to amend with Amendment 4? Okay, you're recognized.
Thank you. I just wanted to rise in non-support of this too. I have attended a lot of the meetings and everything too, and I do believe we do need some council representation on this board.
Okay. Let's see. Ms. Flora, we already went to you. Ms. Toombs, are you seeking to be recognized on Amendment 4? Okay. You are recognized on the motion to amend with Amendment 4. Go ahead, Ms. Toombs.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I stand in support of this amendment because it is aligned with my thinking about the entire bill that a council member at this time should not be added to the commission. We do have a working group. I think that we should stick with the process that's in place, allow that working group to do its work and look at boards and commissions in totality. I think that the executive committee of the Arts Commission voting not to actively advocate for this bill shows that there is not a sense of urgency to have a council member on the board, so there's no need to do it at this time. And so that we can, again, going back to the working group, just follow the process and handle it as part of the overall reworking of boards and commissions. Council members can still work with the commission. Director Darby said in the Rules Committee that the boards and commissions can set their own rules. The chair, so they can set those rules so that the chair can recognize members of the public outside of just the public comment period. So there's opportunity for council members to continue to be involved and to help out the commission as the commission requests itself. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Toombs, on a motion to amend with Amendment 4. Ms. Porterfield, you have already spoken on this amendment. Ms. Sepulveda, are you seeking to be recognized on the motion to amend with Amendment 4? Go ahead, Ms. Sepulveda.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I don't normally abstain on votes, and so I felt the need to explain my reason why this time around. We do have a working group. We have a timeline we're working through. We have some pending legislation that we discussed at the last special called rules meeting. While I do agree that in certain cases, a council member being on a board or commission makes sense, having experience on the Homelessness Planning Council, the ARP committee, we're able to advocate, bring some historical knowledge, be a bridge, create legislation from being on these committees. It makes sense for certain boards and commissions. That's not to say that it makes sense for all boards and commissions. And so in order to figure out what that needs to look like holistically, I'm going to be abstaining on this amendment, this resolution as a whole, and the next resolution as a whole, in order to have those discussion within the working group. That being said, it was brought up in the Rules Committee that the working group is not a publicly noticed group because there's only myself as a council member on there. So I have stated that I will be reporting back to the Rules Committee as to the work that is done in the working group. So we are all clued into the discussions we are having.
Thank you, Chair Sepulveda. Ms. Vo, are you seeking to be recognized on Amendment 4? Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you, Madam President. I am the same with Councilmember Evans. I would normally be supportive of this, and I like type A, getting everything in order. But I think with hearing everyone's conversations, I am not supportive of this amendment because if we are doing a working group and I think this is opportunity. Metro Arts, we've been through a lot. And so I think having a council person on there, it can actually be a real life experience, and we can use this as part of the study. Did it work or not? Is it necessary or not? And I think that would be actually helpful to the working group. So, with me, I also agree we don't need a council member on every board. And I think that for me, it's really important. It doesn't matter how big the budget of a department is. I think Metro Arts, a lot of people don't know what is, what goes on there. So I think it's really important to actually bring equity, bring and elevate this up. And I think having a council person on there chosen by the body would help that as well, so people can better understand Metro Arts, what they do for our community and our city. And so I ask my colleagues to not support this amendment. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else seeking to be recognized specifically on the motion to amend with Amendment 4? Okay. Mr. Nash, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Chair. I rise to support the amendment. I'm not sure that a council member brings magic to any one particular board here. If people want to know what's going on, they can watch the television broadcast of the meetings and see what's happening. And if there's an issue, certainly anybody on that commission or board can ask a council member to address an issue. So I will be supporting Amendment 4.
Okay, Ms. Ewing, are you seeking to be recognized on the motion to amend with Amendment 4? Okay, Ms. Ewing, you're recognized.
Thank you very much. I'm going to be extremely brief. I just wanted to echo the words of CM Evans and CM Vo and stand up in not in support of Amendment 4. I think that having an elected member of council on this particular board would be advantageous and important. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no one else seeking to be, Ms. Porterfield, do you have a point of order? Or,
No, I would like to be recognized again if I can.
okay, but Ms. Suara is ahead of you in the queue, but just to go back to regarding your amendment?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Ms. Porterfield, you're recognized again on Amendment 4.
Thank you. I just wanted to highlight a couple of things that have happened over the last year. We have 9 new commission members, an interim ED. We're doing an ED search. There's been an audit. There has also been a conciliation, which for the members like myself who have been watching and who have been attending meetings will know that that includes law, finance, arts, and MHRC working together to find a path forward for the Thrive program, and to make sure that Thrive artists are going to get paid, for anyone, for the muralists to be able to get paid. So there are things that we are addressing now. So, we've heard the argument that, we can't wait. No one's waiting. We are doing work, but we are also looking to see what the will of that working group is. Commissioners have the right to speak to council. If they want to send something to the council to say their position, they definitely have the right. There was a commissioner that made a comment about fear of retribution if they go against what a council member wants. And there are people in this room who have fear of retribution when they go against what a council member wants. So if you feel pressure in this room when some of your colleagues ask you to vote a certain way on the floor, and you feel pressure, imagine what commissioners may feel like when a council member calls them and pressures them into voting a certain way. So again, I think that adding a council member on the board can add undue influence to this process. This needs to be a process that is democratized, that our residents are able to serve on these commissions. We're saying that we are trusting that our commissioners are the experts in their area. We are trying to diversify boards and commissions to make sure that we have people that are experts in their area. So if we're going to trust them as a part of this process, we need to trust them as a part of this process. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Okay, is anyone else seeking to be recognized on the motion to amend with Amendment 4 who has yet to speak on Amendment 4? Okay, Mr. Bradford, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'm rising in support of this amendment. What I've been listening to tonight is there's concerns about having that experience, having some oversight on how these boards and commissions work. And fundamentally, we already have that. It's called our committees. And so I believe if we're wanting to have some oversight on these committees, on these commissions, then let's have it. Let's bring these individuals, or let's have these questions in front of our actual council committees. And so I want to ask my colleagues to support this amendment, and let's focus on our role as council members, focus on our role as committees, and that is oversight of these various boards and commissions and departments. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Stiles, I will allow it because I went back to Ms. Porterfield, who had already spoken on Amendment 4. And so this is on the motion to amend with Amendment 4. I'm going to come back to you in fairness there. So go ahead, Ms. Stiles.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. I will be brief. Again, I would encourage colleagues to please vote no to this amendment. I think you have heard from enough people that have been very active, that have been in attendance, and have witnessed some of the needs, and that a council member is a benefit and not a detriment. I support the work that boards and commissions, the work group is doing. Thank you, Councilmember Sepulveda, for getting ready to share things with us. But it is not fair to our constituents to make them wait. If there is a need, we've seen a need. This has been going on for so many months. I suppose if this was just starting to come before us, then I would be in support of waiting. But we are now over a year since all of this has been taking place. I think the need has been established, and I hope that you will all vote no on this amendment and vote yes on Amendment 5. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other members seeking to be recognized on Amendment 4. That's correct, Ms. Suara, right? Okay, I just want to double check. Having exhausted all folks in the queue on this matter, we will try the motion for Amendment 4 by voice, but I would imagine that's going to be a little bit tricky. So let's try it, and then if it's not clear, then we will go on the machines for clarity. So there is a motion to amend this bill that already has Amendment 1 and 2 on it, and this is about Amendment 4. It's properly seconded. All in favor of Amendment 4, please say aye. Any voting no? No. Okay, yep. I am unable to determine it by voice, and so, Mr. Clerk, I request a roll call, please, sir. All votes are in. Mr. Clerk, please show the vote. Okay, Amendment 4 passes. So now Amendments 1, 2, and 4 are on the bill. And so it is back to you, Sponsor Stiles, for a motion on your bill. What would you like to do with it? So that we have a proper motion before us. Yep. Ms. Welsh, point of order. Oh, I'm sorry. I pushed it and I repushed it. Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you. These amendments contradict each other. The amendments 1 and 2 call for a council member to be a member of the commission. Amendment 4 says no. So what do we do here?
Okay. Ms. Darby, you're recognized.
To the extent that there's any conflict, the most recent or the last amendment that was voted on will control.
Okay, so Amendment 4, having passed most recently, prevails. Ms. Stiles, at present, Amendment 1, 2, and 4 are on your bill. And so it's back to you for a motion so we can continue our discussion. Oh, sorry, Ms. Stiles, go ahead. You have a whole host of options open to you.
Can I move Amendment 5, Ms. Suarez's amendment? And okay, thank you. Could I move to suspend the rules so we could hear from Councilmember Suarez and hear what her amendment is? So that we could put Amendment 5 on late filed amendment? Or
Yes.
Thank you.
So we're back to you for a motion on this bill. And you have asked to suspend the rules. I think, Ms. Sepulveda, you shared that with us a long time ago in an early report on the nature of the late file. Would you want to restate that? Okay. As I recall, the committee approved of the emergency nature of the late file. Is there any objection to a suspension of the rules? Okay, the rules are not suspended, Ms. Stiles. So it is with you at this juncture to determine what you want to do with your bill. So we have a motion before us for purposes of discussion.
You need to put your mic on.
You can withdraw, you can defer, you can.
Okay, there's like, okay, all right. Colleagues, I appreciate all the assistance.
Or you can proceed with a motion to approve with Amendment 1, 2, and 4, and we can continue with the discussion.
Okay. I'm hearing substitute. Yeah, I don't want to move this bill forward with 4 on it.
Okay.
So I guess expound.
It's on the bill. So
So, all right, I'll defer this one meeting.
okay, there is a motion to defer one meeting.
Will have the effect of an indefinite deferral.
Yeah, so you've had 3 prior deferrals, Ms. Stiles. So this would be the 4th deferral, and by Rule 43.1, a deferral would be an indefinite deferral. So if we have an indefinite deferral, you can refile once we've gotten all these amendments in order and redrafted the bill and thought through all the lengthy discussion we've had on all the amendments. But if you do move to defer at this time, it will be an indefinite deferral. That is one of the motions available to you at this time.
Okay. Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. I am going to go ahead and withdraw this bill.
Okay.
And refile it with all the amendments on it.
Okay, the bill is withdrawn.
Or the proper ones. Thank you.
The bill is withdrawn. Okay. Next on our agenda is Agenda Item 39, Ordinance BL 2024-344. This is an ordinance to amend section, it's sponsors Stiles, Coupon, Eastlick, Bow, Ewing, and Welsh. This is an ordinance to amend section 2.14.030 of the Metropolitan Code regarding the selection of members to the Nashville Music, Film, and Entertainment Commission. Ms. Stiles, you are recognized.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Chair Sepulveda, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. On Amendment 1, rules voted 4 in favor, 0 against, 2 not voting. On Amendment 2, rules voted 6 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. On Amendment 3, rules voted 6 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. And we voted 5 in favor, 0 against, 1 not voting on the resolution as amended.
Okay, you've heard the report of Chair Sepulveda. It's back to you, Sponsor Stiles, for a motion on your bill to get it before us.
I would like to move the bill. Can I talk about my amendment or move? I'd like to talk about my amendment last. After there's three, so I'd like to go.
Okay,
last.
so if you will please move approval of the bill, then the bill will properly be before us. And when you are discussing the bill that is in before us, you have the floor, then you can move the amendment that you would choose to move.
I'd like to move to approve the bill.
Okay, there's a motion to approve this bill. Is there a second? Okay, motion to approve, properly seconded. We're on discussion of this bill. You have the floor, Ms. Stiles.
So what I was asking is I'd like to let the other amendment sponsors speak, and I'd like to speak on mine after they're finished, if I may.
Ms. Stiles, what I would encourage you to do is just move the amendment that you want to move. That's a proper motion. And then in the discussion on that amendment, the sponsor of the amendment can be recognized. Okay, you have the floor at this juncture.
I get it, but the order in which they are, I'd prefer mine to be last to be discussed if we, can I?
So you can move.
So let's talk
any,
about,
you may
let's talk
move any
about
amendment, Ms. Stiles.
Amendment 2 and let the sponsor discuss it.
Okay.
Move
Ms.
Amendment 2.
Stiles has moved Amendment 2. Is there a second for Amendment 2? Okay. Amendment 2 has been properly moved and seconded. We are on a discussion of Amendment 2. Ms. Toombs, would you seek to be recognized? Go ahead, ma'am.
Yes, thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. So I have the same concerns about this one. I don't feel like a council member should serve on this commission either. However, if we are going to have a council member, then that council member should not just come from a single committee. It should be, that person should be voted on by the entire body, and that's what my amendment does, says that the council member serving on the commission will be voted on by the entire body.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Cortez, do you seek to be recognized on Amendment 2? Okay, go ahead, sir.
No.
Okay, that's fine. You may remain in the queue. Mr. Nash, do you seek to be recognized on Amendment 2, Ms. Toombs' amendment that's been offered by Ms. Stiles? Yep, go ahead, sir.
I don't know that we got a committee report, did we?
We did, yes, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep, we had
Never mind.
We had a detailed report of all the amendments from Chair Sepulveda. Okay. So is any other member seeking to be recognized on Amendment number 2 for purposes of discussion? You've declined to discuss Amendment 2. Mr. Cortez, we can come back to you. Okay, Ms. Stiles on Amendment 2.
Much like the previous legislation, I'm not in support of this amendment. I do think that as this is new, not even a year old, again, many questions, some questions not answered, a lot of back and forth. Administratively with legal, I think it would be good to have a council member.
Ms. Stiles, just point of order on my part. You moved Amendment 2, but you're now in opposition to Amendment 2?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you understood the amendment that we were on. Okay, proceed. I'm sorry.
Yes, I just wanted to express that I'm not in support of it. I'm at this point, I just want to move through and get done with this. So I'm just expressing my displeasure. Let the body do what it wants to do.
Okay, is anyone else seeking to discuss Amendment 2? Ms. Porterfield, you're recognized on Amendment 2. There's a motion to amend with Amendment 2.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I do not support a council member being on this for the same reasons that we just discussed. However, I'm going to vote for it because if we do get a council member, it needs to come from the whole body, not from one committee. And then I will be voting for hopefully the superseding amendment that will remove a council member altogether.
Okay. Is anyone else seeking discussion on Amendment 2? Okay. Seeing none. All in favor of Amendment 2, please say aye.
Aye.
Any voting no? Any abstaining? Okay. Amendment 2 is on the bill. Ms. Stiles, it is back to you for a motion on your bill. I'm sorry. Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to move the bill as amended and move to the next amendment.
Okay, so Ms. Stiles has moved approval of the bill with, as amended, with Amendment 2. And so we are on discussion. As part of that discussion, Ms. Stiles, is it your intent? I heard you. You want to move?
Yes, Amendment 1, which would put a member of Nashville Songwriter Association on this commission and also a council member.
Okay, is there a second to the motion to amend this bill with Amendment 1? Is there a second? Okay, properly moved and seconded. So we're now on discussion of Amendment 1. Mr. Cortez, do you seek to be recognized on Amendment 1? Okay. Does any other member, Ms. Welsh, are you seeking to be recognized on Amendment 1? Okay, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I rise in support of this amendment because I do feel it's important to have some of the experience that we have with council members on some of these boards and commissions. On this particular commission, the reason a former council member is now sitting on that commission is because that commission needed the expertise that came from someone on council. And I think we need to acknowledge that some of these commissions could use some of the experience that council members can bring to the commission, and the knowledge that council member can not only bring to the commission, but can bring back to the council as a whole with that personal one-on-one experience of serving on the commission. I serve on the Greenways Commission, and I feel like myself and my two colleagues who serve with me add to that commission and also help us understand other issues that end up coming before council. So I rise in support of this amendment, and I ask my colleagues to support it. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Porterfield, are you seeking to be recognized on Amendment 1? Okay, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I stand in opposition for all the reasons that we have already discussed about needing a council member servant. I do think that we need to give the process the opportunity to play out on what we're going to do with boards and commissions. I think Councilmember Welsh made an excellent point about the fact that we have a former council member servant on that commission right now. We have about 20 people that just served 4 years that are not serving on this body right now. And if we need experience and expertise, I'm sure that we have a plethora of former council members that will be willing to give their time and their service to lend their expertise. But until we have a solid process of which boards and commissions need council members, I cannot support this amendment. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Toombs, are you seeking to be recognized on Amendment 1? Okay. Ms. Toombs, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I stand in opposition to Amendment number 1. We just passed Amendment number 2, which says that the council member would be elected from the entire body. I'm opposed to having a council member, period, but if we're going to have one, that member needs to be elected from the entire body. This Amendment 1 would bring it back to the council member coming from the Apple Committee.
Okay, appreciate that. All right. Seeing no other members seeking to be recognized specifically on Amendment 1, we're going to move to the vote on Amendment 1. Okay? All those in favor of Amendment 1, please say aye. Any voting no? Okay. Any abstaining? Okay. This amendment does not prevail. Okay, so Ms. Stiles, we are back to you for a motion. Go ahead, Ms. Stiles.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. We can go ahead and move the bill as amended.
Okay, so at present, your motion is a motion to approve with Amendment 2.
Yes.
Okay. Now, Mr. Cortez, we're going to go to you for discussion or a motion or whatever you want to do, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I would like to move Amendment 3.
Okay, that is a proper motion. It's proper, and it's been seconded. So there is a motion to amend with Amendment 3 by Mr. Cortez. Is there any discussion on Amendment 3? Or with proper second, you can speak on your bill, sir, if you want, or your amendment, rather, if you want to describe it.
Yes, I would.
Yep.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. This amendment was actually drafted by Councilman Gregg. He was not able to attend, so I was asked to run with it. And when I read it, I was actually upset that I didn't draft it because it was a very good idea. I was fortunate to spend 15 years working in entertainment and seeing the idea to bring NSAI into the equation. NSAI is one of the biggest advocates for songwriters, and they were instrumental in the passage of the Music Modernization Act up in Congress. So to have somebody, to have a voice that's speaking at the federal level and being able to have a voice in this commission, I think that's a very vital voice for songwriters to have, and I think they could add a really unique perspective to the conversation to this commission. So I would ask that all my colleagues support it.
Okay. Is there any discussion on the motion to amend with Amendment 3? Okay, Mr. Gregg, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Councilmember Cortez, for bringing that forward. I just want to echo my support. NSAI has 5,000 members worldwide and only over 150 chapters, and they're also owners of the world-famous Bluebird. Can't talk tonight. To have that expertise on this commission is invaluable, and so I ask my colleagues to support this amendment.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gregg. Ms. Stiles, are you seeking to be recognized on Amendment 3 in particular? Go ahead.
Vice Mayor, I was, but I'm not.
Okay, all right. So Ms. Toombs, are you seeking to be recognized on Amendment 3? Go ahead, Ms. Toombs, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I stand in support of this amendment because it goes along with my stance that there should not be a council member placed on this commission. With this one in particular, as has been previously stated, there's already a former council member who just rolled off of the council who's serving on the commission. So any expertise that a council member lends is already present. I won't rehash the conversation about the working group. Let's let them do their work. And it adds the Songwriters Association individual to the commission, which I know is something that is wanted. So again, I ask my colleagues to support this amendment.
Okay, Ms. Porterfield on Amendment 3, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Rising in support, Council Lady Toombs actually hit all of my points as though we had written them together, which we didn't. But she already hit all of my points, so I'm just standing in support. Thank you.
Okay, is any other amendment or member seeking to be recognized on Amendment 3? Okay, seeing none, we will try this by voice. All in favor of Amendment 3, please say aye. Aye. Any voting no? Any abstaining? Okay. You're an abstention, Mr. Benton. Okay. All right. Amendment 3 is on the bill. Ms. Darby, where are we now, please, ma'am? We've just catch us up because I know some amendments supersede others. Oh, I'm sorry. I turned your mic off instead of on. Go ahead, ma'am.
Where we are now, Amendments 2 and Amendment 3 have passed for approval. Amendment 3, since it passed later in time, will overwrite Amendment number 2 because they are in conflict.
Okay, so what amendments are on the bill at present?
2 and 3.
Okay. And I apologize, you said that Amendment 3 supersedes Amendment 1. Correct. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So, Ms. Stiles, it is to you for a motion on your bill as amended with Amendments 3 and 2, if you so choose. Go ahead, Ms. Stiles.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. Go ahead and move the bill as amended.
Okay. As amended with Amendment 3 and 2. Okay. I've heard a second. So Ms. Stiles has made a motion to approve the bill as amended with Amendment 2 and Amendment 3. Is there any discussion on the bill as amended? Seeing none. Oh, Ms. Porterfield, you trying to get in the queue there? Are you having difficulty with your tablet? Yep, Ms. Porterfield, go ahead.
Point of order, how does 3 not supersede 2? Because it appears that, I'm sorry, did we just say 3 does supersede 2? So it's not amended with 2 and 3, it's only amended with 3.
Ms. Ms. Darby, I apologize if I misspoke. Thank you for clarifying, Ms. Porterfield. Ms. Darby, if you could clearly articulate.
Both amendments have been approved by the body. They're both on the bill, but number 3 supersedes number 2.
So we are
it
voting right
controls.
now with the bill with Amendment 3. Thank you.
And 2. But 3 supersedes 2. Sorry, the body has approved both amendments, but number 3 will control. The language in number 3 will control.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else seeking to be recognized for purposes of discussion on the bill as amended? Seeing none. All in favor of the bill as amended, please say aye. Any voting no? Any abstaining? Okay, Ms. Sepulveda, you'll be recorded as an abstention. Did I see all the abstentions? Okay. This bill has passed second reading as amended. Okay. We are now moving on to agenda item 41, ordinance BL 2024-426, sponsor Kimbrough. This is an ordinance amending section 15.64.140 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws pertaining to the review of a grading permit and drainage plan. Ms. Kimbrough, you are recognized.
The committee report, and I believe
Yes, Chair Parker for Transportation and Infrastructure for the committee report, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. We considered amendments 1 and 2, recommended approval of those, 8 in favor, 0 against. But on the bill, we recommended a 1-meeting deferral, 6 in favor and 2 against.
Okay, that's a 1-meeting deferral. Okay, so colleagues, by Rule 8, that is, and Sponsor Kimbrough, that is a mandatory 1-meeting deferral by rule. Okay, that is deferred to our next meeting of August 6th. Okay, next is agenda item 42, ordinance BL 2024-428, sponsors Coupin, Porterfield, and Allen. This is an ordinance approving, ratifying, and adopting Chapter 68 of the Private Acts of 2024, authorizing the establishment of an East Bank Development Authority. Is Mr. Coupin in the room? Would someone kindly get Mr. Coupin? I would go to Ms. Porterfield, but she is also not here. There's Alan. Got it. Mr. Coupin, you're recognized, sir, on your bill regarding the East Bank Development Authority.
Thank you so much, Madam President. I would love to get my committee reports.
Okay. Do we have the Chair of Budget and Finance or the Vice Chair of Budget and Finance here for committee reports on Bill 428. Vice Chair Toombs is coming across. This is 428, East Bank Development Authority, Vice Chair Toombs, speaking from the desk of Chair Porterfield. Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. My Vice Mayor.
Who even are we now?
We're having all sorts of fun tonight.
Right?
Budget and Finance voted to recommend approval, 11 in favor, 0 against, 0 non-voting.
Okay, so it was a recommendation of approval in committee, 11 favors, 0. Okay, so it's back to you. That is the only committee report. Mr. Coupin, go ahead, sir.
I'd like to move approval with a very brief comment.
Okay, is there a second for the motion to approve? Okay, properly moved and seconded. Back to you, sir.
Thank you. Excited to bring this bill forward. Had some good discussion in committees and good support, and appreciate Chief Development Officer Mendez and others working.
I'm hearing in my ear that perhaps you wanted to defer this bill.
No, we want to pass it today, and
I
we're going
see,
to defer
passed.
it next
Okay.
time.
So you would need to make a motion specifically for passage on second here, but
Yes.
the deferral of third reading to the meeting of August 20th. So you need to make a specific motion, sir. So let's, okay?
Rewind. Oh, so I could do both. I did not realize I could do both motions at the same time. I was
You can.
expecting to
You can
defer
make
it
it-
next meeting, but I will do the comprehensive motion.
Okay.
So I'd like to amend my motion, if I can, to move approval today.
Yep.
And then move for a deferral on third reading to the meeting of August 20th with a brief comment.
So passage on second with a deferral of third reading to the meeting of August 20th. Is there a second for that motion? Okay, properly moved and seconded. Now, go ahead, sir.
Every time I think I've got all the Roberts rules, there's another one I'm learning.
I mean, this is.
Again, very excited to bring this bill forward in some robust discussion. I appreciate Chief Development Officer Mendez and others working very hard on this. For the public watching at home, East Bank Authority is going to be the entity that covers the East Bank area and manages contracts, real estate, bonds, et cetera, et cetera. There will be a later intergovernmental agreement that's going to establish the inner workings of this authority, but this kind of creates that shell. There's we're excited to pass it tonight on second. There's a scheduling conflict for the next meeting, which is why we're going to defer it one more meeting. So that's really a housekeeping in nature. And so with that, I ask my colleagues to support the bill. Thank you.
Okay, you've heard the motion of Mr. Coupin. It was properly seconded. Mr. Parker, are you seeking to be recognized? Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and I support the sponsor's motion and appreciate him deferring to both accommodate the schedule and as well deferring previously to accommodate the East Bank committee meeting, which we had yesterday, and y'all can review on YouTube, which included a presentation from the administration and a lot of good discussion about this. So I would encourage colleagues to please review that about 45-minute meeting from yesterday.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Swara, do you seek to be recognized?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Great minds think alike. I was actually going to refer everyone to look at the budget meeting where Mr. Mendez actually gave a very good description and overview of what the board does. And so people can refer to that. It's short and gives a lot of explanation. Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate that. Is there any further discussion? Okay. We have a motion to approve on second with the deferral of the third and final reading to the meeting of August 20th, properly seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, this is past second reading. The third reading of this bill will be August 20th. Okay. Next is agenda item 43, ordinance BL 2024-441, sponsor Stiles. Ms. Stiles. Can someone get Ms. Stiles? This is an ordinance to amend section 16.24.340 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws regarding algae, moss, mildew, lichen, and fungus. Are you requesting committee reports, Ms. Stiles? Okay. Mr. Bradford, you are recognized, sir, for the committee report of government operations and regulations.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. After a very lively and educational discussion, we did decide to defer one meeting, 6 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay. Given Rule 8, that is a mandatory deferral by rule, Ms. Stiles. Yep. Okay. Okay, that will be deferred to the next meeting. Okay, next is agenda item 50, ordinance BL 2024-466. This is an ordinance approving 3 option agreements, authorizing the purchase of properties for a new elementary school in Antioch, Tennessee. Sponsors Stiles, Sepulveda, and Swara. Ms. Stiles, you are recognized.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. I'd like to defer this one meeting.
Let's
please.
get your
committee
committee reports first. Chair Porterfield for the report of Budget and Finance, please.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Budget and Finance voted 11 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting to defer until August the 1st.
Okay.
The first meeting in August. My apologies.
Yeah, first meeting in August. Okay. Chair Gamble for the report of the Planning and Zoning Committee, please, ma'am. Whoops, hang on. Go ahead.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Planning and Zoning recommended approval to defer to the first meeting in August. 11 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, now it is back to you, Ms. Stiles. Oh, I do apologize. Okay, so this is a mandatory deferral by rule per Rule 8. And as well, do we need to indicate by requirement that that will also have a public hearing?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
all right.
Deferring
So
to
there
the
will
next
be
meeting.
a public hearing at the meeting of August 6th.
Correct.
Okay. All righty. Colleagues, I am going to ask that we take a brief 5-minute recess, and I'm going to confer with Ms. Darby because we have a host of amendments here, and I know how we kind of went through it last time, just created a little bit of confusion. So with your indulgence, it might even just be 3 minutes. So, restroom quick, but please, just no more than 5 minutes so we can just confer on this, please. Thank you. So we are taking a 5-minute recess. Members of the meeting will please come back to order after a brief adjournment and conference. Okay, members. So we are now moving into section M of our agenda, bills on third reading. After conferring with Director Darby, we are in proper order as described last time. I know it is different, and I know it felt a little bit messy that first time as we were kind of going back and forth on Ms. Stiles' bill. But we will proceed in a similar fashion as we did in the previous section. Okay, so now we are on agenda item 51, ordinance BL 2024-187. This is sponsors Horton, Evan Siegel, Vo, Benedict, Huffman, Welsh, Sepulveda, Cupin, Cortez, Bradford, Spain, Allen, and Ewing. This is an ordinance amending section 17.16.030 of the Metropolitan Code zoning regulations to amend the conditions for adaptive residential developments located in non-residential zoning districts where residential uses are permitted with conditions. Sponsor Horton, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to ask for committee reports, please.
Okay. Let's see. This goes first and only to Chair Gamble for the report of planning and zoning. Go ahead, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Vice Mayor, are we doing committee reports for each? What are we doing committee reports on? The bill?
Yes, ma'am. If you would give a consolidated committee report regarding the amendments and then the bill as well, please.
Okay. The committee took up proposed amendment 1 by Councilmember Horton, voted in favor, 0 against, 0 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
I'm sorry, how many in favor?
11.
Thank you.
For proposed amendment 2 by Horton, it was withdrawn.
Okay.
Proposed amendment 3 by Gamble, vote 2 in favor, 9 against, 0 not voting. For proposed amendment 4 by Parker, 11 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. And proposed amendment 5 by Parker, 11 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. And the bill was approved with the amendments, 10 in favor, 1 against,
And
0 not voting.
Approved with which amendments, Ms. Gamble?
With the amendments 1, 4, and 5.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chair Gamble. Okay, Mr. Horton, it is back to you, sir. Oops, I'm sorry, wrong button. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'd like to move for approval with a brief comment.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, there's a motion to approve, properly seconded. Yes, ma'am, go ahead. Okay, but it's, okay, so do you have a point of order about procedure? We are with Mr. Horton. We're on his bill. He has made a motion to approve. It's been properly seconded. He has his committee reports, and he is speaking on his bill. So is your point of order about proceed? Ms. Gamble, if you could
Thank you.
articulate your point of order.
Yes, my point of order is regarding wanting to speak on one of the amendments that is not on the bill. I can do that on the floor.
You can, but not at this time.
Okay. I just want to make sure that you recognize me in the queue and don't take a vote before I'm able to do that.
Okay, yep.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Horton, you are on a motion to approve, properly seconded. You have the floor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. We talked a little bit about this bill earlier this month at our earlier meeting. What this does very briefly is expand housing in commercial, office, and shopping districts. Currently, it's already permissible to build housing in these districts subject to certain conditions, which are known as adaptive residential reuse. Among those conditions is the condition that it be located on what's called an arterial or a collector street. That's a problem not just because it significantly limits the parcels in which we're able to build housing, but it banishes the housing that it does permit to the busiest, the most polluted, and the most dangerous parts of the city. So what this bill does is revise some of those conditions, including the requirement that it be located on an arterial or collector street. This is a beneficial for three main policy reasons. First, it expands the parcels where we're able to build housing. This eases pressure on housing markets and helps lower the cost in the midst of an affordability crisis for our city. Second, it focuses that housing where it makes the most sense in close proximity to commercial amenities. This is good both because it pushes back against additional car traffic congestion by putting housing close to commercial instead of far away, and it also provides an additional incentive for commercial amenities, which are sorely lacking in many communities. And third and finally, this has no effect on residential zoning districts, so it helps avoid disruptions to established residential neighborhoods. So overall, this is a relatively minor, it's an incremental bill, but one that does bring real benefits for housing, especially affordable housing, and for our city. And so I ask for your vote in approval with this. And we do have several amendments which are important to it. I'd like to move for the first amendment first.
Okay, Mr. Horton has made a proper motion to move Amendment 1. Is there a second? Okay, properly moved and seconded. So you may speak on the amendment, Mr. Horton.
Thank you. This is a housekeeping amendment. This was prepared by the planning department that clarifies the application of the bill to planned unit developments to PUDs.
Okay. Is there discussion on Amendment 1, properly moved and seconded? Ms. Gamble, do you seek to be recognized on Amendment 1? Okay. Mr. Parker on Amendment 1, Ms. Evans-Siegel, or Mr. Coupin? Okay, no one seeking to be recognized on the housekeeping amendment. Let's then move to a vote. All in favor of Amendment 1, please say aye. Okay, any voting no? Okay, any abstaining? Okay, is it sufficient with the one no vote from Mr. Eastlick on the amendment? Mr. Clerk, if you would record Mr. Eastlick as a no on Amendment 1. Amendment 1 passes and is on the bill, and so it is back to you, Mr. Horton, for a motion on your bill as amended.
Thank you. I have a second amendment. I withdrew it in committee. Do I need to withdraw it again here, the second amendment?
You do not, no,
Okay.
sir.
I just do not move it then. Thank you.
Correct. Okay, so can you give us a motion on your bill?
I'd like to move the bill as amended, please.
With Amendment 1, okay? Is there a second on Mr. Horton's? Okay, so now we are on discussion of the bill as amended with Amendment 1, okay? Ms. Gamble, are you seeking to be recognized?
Yes, thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to withdraw Amendment 3.
Okay, so noted. Okay, and so we are continuing with discussion on the bill as amended with Amendment 1 for approval. Mr. Parker, do you seek to be recognized? Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to move Amendment 4.
Okay, that is a proper motion on discussion. It has been seconded. Go ahead, Mr. Parker, for a description of your amendment, please, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So I appreciate the sponsor. I think this is a good bill, but one concern that I had, and I heard other colleagues express as well, and folks in the community, is we don't necessarily want to expand short-term rental entitlements in adaptive residential in places that it doesn't already exist. So I worked with our staff, Matt Wilkinson, and planning and codes folks to get to language that everybody was comfortable with that would basically retain that entitlement where it exists today within adaptive residential. But the areas that we are expanding the adaptive residential ability entitlement, those will not include the ability to be short-term rentals. So this means that where we are expanding adaptive residential, that we're going to have residential housing there and happy to answer any questions and appreciate colleagues' consideration of this.
Okay, so there's a motion to approve Amendment 4. It's properly seconded, and you heard a description from Mr. Parker. Mr. Coupin, are you seeking to be recognized on the motion to amend with Amendment 4? Ms. Welsh on Amendment 4. Mr. Eastlick on Amendment 4. Oh, okay, you don't need to be recognized if that's not what you're wanting to speak on. You can speak later on the bill as amended if you would like to.
I'll wait.
Okay. Ms. Gamble on Amendment 4. Okay, not seeking to be recognized. Okay, seeing no one else seeking to be recognized on the motion to amend with Amendment, oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Toombs, I apologize. On Amendment 4, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. I rise in support of Amendment 4. Non-owner occupied short-term rentals is one of my primary concerns with this bill.
Sorry, I'm just seeing how deep the queue is, and I could only see it a certain distance, and I am thinking that might have, okay, got it. Yes, ma'am, please continue.
I have quite a bit of adapted residential in my district, and it's all been Airbnbs, and so that was a major concern of mine to not open that up to even more Airbnbs, and so I am in support of this amendment that's going to restrict Airbnbs for properties that get the entitlement under this legislation. So I urge my colleagues to support it.
Okay. Let me just make sure. Ms. Evans Siegel, are you seeking to be recognized on Amendment 4? Okay. Any other members seeking to be recognized on the motion to amend with Amendment 4? Mr. Horton, sir, go ahead. You're recognized. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd just like to say thank you to Councilmember Parker and to Councilmember Toombs for their attention to this. I think this is a genuine and significant improvement to the bill. The purpose of this bill is in part to provide more housing options for people, especially affordable housing. And I think it's important for that this goes towards long-term rentals or owners and not short-term rentals. So I appreciate Councilmember Parker in bringing this amendment. And I appreciate Councilmember Toombs raising it both last meeting and at the Planning Commission. I think this is a significant improvement. So thank you.
Okay. Any other members seeking to be recognized on Amendment 4? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to the vote. All in favor of Amendment 4, please say aye. Any voting no or abstaining? Okay, Amendment 4 is on the bill, and it is back to you, Mr. Horton, for a motion on your bill as presently amended by Amendment 1 and Amendment 4.
Thank you. I'd like to move for approval as amended now.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, is there any discussion on the bill as amended with Amendment 1 and 4? Now we're going to go back to the regular queue. Mr. Coupin, do you seek to be recognized on the bill as amended?
That would be great. Thank you, Madam President.
Go ahead, sir.
I rise in support of this bill as amended. Appreciate the restriction on short-term rentals. That's something that my district feels pretty strongly about, and appreciate the not opening the door to further short-term rentals. And appreciate my colleague's very, very hard work. I know he's had extensive meetings and engagement and work on this bill. As we know, we are in a housing crisis and an affordability crisis, and to get creative to find ways to address that, I really appreciate. I get people that ask me, what are we going to do about this and about our housing crisis? And so it's exciting for me to be able to come back to them and say, we're doing something about this. We're providing a pathway to increase residential in certain areas. I know concerns were raised about what that does to commercial potential in certain areas. And I share those concerns. I think that commercial development throughout the entire city is really, really important and something that I would be supportive of continual development of. But I do want to lift up an example in my district on Rosa Parks. There's a parcel that is CS zoned. It is currently entitled to what we are going to bring more lots into hopefully this evening. And that lot is commercially zoned, is on a high traffic corridor. It's around a lot of other commercial, and it is sat vacant. And the adaptive reuse is what's allowing it to be developed into something instead of sitting as dirt. So I do think that, just the fact that we are providing this option doesn't completely remove commercial. It may be a non-viable lot or non-viable area. So all that to say, very supportive of this endeavor, and there's some concerns that I think we've talked through, and I appreciate those that have been lifted up. But I ask that my colleagues support this endeavor this evening, and thank the sponsor for bringing it.
Okay. Ms. Welsh, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I too rise in support of this bill. I think that this bill is going to have a huge effect on our housing situation here in Nashville. And I know in my particular district, it's really going to have a very positive effect because of how it is written and on the corridors where this will actually be allowed. I will see a huge benefit, and my constituents will see a huge benefit on corridors like Nolensville Pike and Murfreesboro Pike, where we have a lot of commercial development and we need more residential. And being able to bring those two things together, as I think I mentioned earlier in this discussion at earlier meetings, we do this now generally with multi-use, starting with residential, bringing commercial. This is just flipping the switch. But it's going to make people's lives easier, more housing, being on corridors where there are amenities, where there is transit, and more transit is coming because we passed the transit bill tonight, which is so great. So I think this is a net positive for the city. And the Planning Commission approved this unanimously and also thinks this is a great thing. So I ask my colleagues to support this, and let's start building some real housing here in Nashville. Thank you so much.
Okay, Ms. Gamble, Chair Gamble, you are recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I believe that the intentions behind the bill are to increase housing units across the county. I think it's good. However, there are some problems with the bill that will negatively impact some areas, particularly our suburban and GSD areas across the county. You know, there are a lot of differences between USD and GSD, and this bill is a one size fits all. It doesn't take into account that in the GSD, different from the USD, there is more commercial properties that are vacant land, not buildings that are not being used and can be repurposed. Also, that vacant land is more land available as opposed to in the USD. So where you have a smaller lot where you're able to stack a lot of units on top of each other, you have a different dynamic in the general service district where you can have multiple buildings on one lot to accomplish the same similar goal, but in a different way. And I had presented amendment to kind of address some of the concerns that I've heard in the community. One being that this would take the power away from the community and the district council member to present or to have a voice in the development that comes to the community. It would take away the opportunities to increase jobs and stimulate small business growth by taking away those commercial opportunities with adding housing. And the Planning Commission did approve it, but we did have a recommendation that the Planning Department look at ways to increase mixed-use opportunities or to encourage mixed-use opportunities with this adaptive residential development, particularly in the GSD. And because that wasn't done is why I introduced that amendment, and I wished and hoped that we could have come to a agreement with the bill sponsor that would have addressed those concerns and still allow the kind of density that we want to allow, the type of housing. And finally, I think this legislation is getting ahead of the transit plan, the mayor's transit plan, which will really be a game changer for our community, for the suburban community, because it will bring in the improvements of infrastructure and transportation that will help support that increased density of residents and housing that we're bringing into the community, and it would also encourage more business development. But this bill takes away those opportunities. Yes, we can still do it, but it'll be harder because now we'll have to do rezonings as opposed to being able to do that and mix in housing and business in one and meet the needs of the community. We don't have grocery stores and daycares and things like that. We have to drive everywhere right now. So this will not help that at all. So for those reasons, I'll be voting against the bill tonight. And I wish that we could have come to an agreement to kind of help address the concerns that we received the many emails about tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Evans Siegel, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. We have heard on this body over and over again that we should listen to the Planning Department. They're experts. The Planning Department supports this legislation, and we should honor that. We've heard that we should listen to the Planning Commission because they're neutral and they can evaluate things and they're experts. The Planning Commission unanimously approved this legislation. We hear that we should do what works, and we have been doing this for 20 years in this county, and it works, and we should honor that. We've used this specifically for affordable housing in this city. We did conduit financing for 900 Cleveland when I was on the Industrial Development Board. It was in Councilmember Parker's district, and it used adaptive residential. That is the LIHTC housing that we have in Nashville, over 250 units because of the legislation like this. Members want less density often in their neighborhoods. This would consolidate some density along corridors, and we should honor the request of members who want density on corridors and not in neighborhoods and support this legislation. Home prices aren't magic. We don't have enough homes and prices go up. And this program is one of the few tools that we have today in Davidson County to affect the housing stock in this county. It can bring thousands of units online, and if we want people to have affordable homes, we have to do that, and I would encourage all the members of this body to support that.
Thank you. Ms. Stiles, you're recognized. On Mr. Horton's bill as amended.
So I just would like to ask the planning staff, as this bill pertains to Southeast Nashville and Antioch, what does that look like for the 5 districts that we have? How does that impact us as we are receiving emails from concerned constituents?
Ms. Milligan, you're recognized for the Planning Department. Oh, and I'll turn your mic on. How about that too?
Thank you. Certainly. So I did have an opportunity to look at that pretty quickly this afternoon. The Urban Services District does extend into a good bit of that part of the county. So the Urban Services District, where adaptive residential is already allowed on collectors and arterials on the north side of 24, sort of goes all the way to the county line along Murfreesboro Pike. All of that is within the Urban Services District. So looking at the area sort of from Nolensville to I-24 all the way south to the county line, there are around, from what I could count, under 20 commercial properties that would be impacted by this bill. Now, that's not to say that that's all of the commercial properties. There are more commercial properties, but they're within planned unit developments, and so those would still remain as being available for commercial. Of those 20 or so that I found sort of in that area, many of those have already been developed. There were only 4 or 5 vacant. And so there is still a substantial amount of commercial property that would still be eligible for or only for commercial because it's within a planned unit development, and so that it's not impacted by this bill. And then otherwise, the commercial properties are primarily developed with a few handful of undeveloped within that sort of area that I looked at.
Okay, Ms. Stiles, back to you. Does that answer your question?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. It does. I have a follow-up question, if I may. Of the 4 or 5 tracts of land that you saw in the southeast, are these substantially large? Are these small pieces of land?
Ms. Milligan, you're recognized.
That I don't have the exact acreages, but if any of them are over 3 or so acres, I'd be surprised. So they're relatively small and all along corridors. So either along, there's a few along Nolensville. They're not super deep. There is one larger property on the interstate right on I-24 with all of its frontage on I-24. And then there are a couple along Old Hickory Boulevard that are relatively small.
The property that is along I-24, I feel like that's one of the questions that we received was the size of that. So your recollection is that is around 3 acres or so?
No, that one is a little bit bigger, but it's also not vacant.
Okay.
There's a building on it already.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Mr. Spain, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise in support of this bill, and
Mr. Spain, you're so tall. If you could move that
Oh,
mic a little
sorry.
further up. Mr. Rosenberg also had that challenge at that back
I
table,
forget
but
I'm now the lone member of the Tall Guy Caucus. Thank you, Madam President. And I want to say I appreciate all the work and diligent effort that the sponsors put into this bill. I rise in support of this bill. My district is also primarily GSD, but I think this stands to benefit my area for several important reasons. One, first and foremost, it creates the opportunity for more housing, more rooftops, which is something we desperately need. And it does it without disturbing our established residential neighborhoods, which is something that is of great concern to a lot of people in that part of town. Secondly, for our commercial areas that are currently underutilized, it provides an opportunity to put that land to good use, hopefully creates an incentive to have true mixed-use developments and create the kind of density that will incentivize and support exactly the kind of commercial developments we hope to see in those areas. So for those reasons, I'm supporting this bill, and I hope that my colleagues will as well. Thank you.
thank you. Ms. Vo, you're recognized.
Thank you so much, Vice Mayor. I rise in support of this bill. I want to thank the sponsor and everyone who has joined on, and hope that our colleagues will too. I think that the biggest thing here is that when we come to council, we are trying to solve problems in our city. And we've been trying to solve housing and affordable housing for a very long time. And, you know, with that Affordable Housing Task Force report that came out in 2021, Nashville needed to create over 53,000 units by 2030, and 18,000 of those need to be affordable. And so for me, anything that we can do within our power as a council to address the needs of our community and build more housing for all of our constituents is so important to me. And I'm very excited that this is something we are doing to hopefully address some of the housing issue that we have, and that we can hopefully bring that density so we can get grocery stores where we need it, like even in my district, in areas of my district that desperately need it, even with the density. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Vo. Ms. Benedict, you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Previous question.
Okay. Ms. Benedict has called the previous question. This is a non-debatable motion that requires 2/3 of those voting. We can try it by voice. When you move the previous question, you are ending debate and moving straight to the vote. All in favor of the motion to call the previous question, please say aye. Aye. Any voting no? I think the motion to call the question prevails. And so with that, we will move to the vote on the bill as amended by Amendment 1 and 4. Okay? I anticipate some no votes were on third and final reading. So Mr. Clerk, if you could open the machines, please. Okay, with all votes in, Mr. Clerk, please show the vote. This bill passes 27 votes in favor, 7 votes against, and 0 abstentions. Okay. All right. We are moving on next to agenda item 52. And it's companion bill 53, sponsored Toombs, BL 2024-271 is an ordinance to amend Title 17 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws of the zoning ordinance of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County by changing from CS to SP zoning for property located at 316 Homestead Road, approximately 240 feet north of South Ridge Drive, that's 1.56 acres, to permit 23 multifamily residential units, all of which is described herein. Ms. Toombs, you're recognized, I think, just first on 271, given you have an amendment, correct? Go ahead. If you're wanting to move your amendment, we'll just take the one bill. If you're wanting to do a deferral or something like that, we'll take them up together.
So 52, 53, 54, and 55.
Oh, okay, a consolidated motion for all those things.
I move for one meeting deferral.
I love it. Okay. Ms. Toombs has moved a one meeting deferral for BL 2024-271, 272, 317, and 318. Okay. Is there any discussion on the motion to defer those bills in a consolidated motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Okay, any voting no or abstaining? Okay. All right. Next is agenda item 60. This is ordinance BL 2024-390. Sponsors Huffman, Bradford, Ellis, Spain, Ewing, Weiner, Horton, and Rutherford. This is an ordinance to amend section 2.63.020 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws to require the Office of Homeless Services to maintain an inventory of homeless service providers throughout Davidson County. Mr. Huffman, you're recognized, sir, on your bill.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I don't believe I have to ask for committee reports. Is this on third reading? Is that correct?
I believe we've already got our committee reports in, sir. Yes.
Oh, and apologies. I think I just referred to you as Vice Chair. You are definitely not that. Vice Mayor, it is late.
All good.
Apologies. I'd like to move for approval with a brief comment.
Okay. Is there a second on the motion to approve? Okay. Properly seconded. Back to you, sir.
Thank you, colleagues. I want to start with a quick story. I'm going to change the name of the individual just for confidentiality's sake. But the story is with a guy named Alex. And Alex is unhoused, and he lives over in Hermitage on my side of town. Last October, I stopped and checked on Alex. He was on the side of the road, and he was holding his hand. I didn't really know what was going on, but I stopped and talked to most unhoused folks in my district. What I found was he had an infection, and he had no way to treat it. And after searching through various handbooks and trying to find someone that could treat this, he could not find help. He was about to lose more than just his finger. And that got me thinking, this needs to be tracked. And then that brings me to our Office of Homeless Services, which just turned a year old on July the 1st. The Office of Homeless Services. And just think about that for a second. Office of Homeless Services. Now, one thing I want to clear up is in the last meeting, we heard that there's a list that already exists, so why are we doing this? There is very much a list that exists. What does not exist is where these items are being allocated. And as this problem grows in our county, we have to understand where the holes are. What are we going to do when another surge happens in a community like it did in Hermitage and service providers weren't able to extend out to those areas? Do we just ignore those communities? We don't. I was elected on a mandate that I truly believe in, and that is that government can be a solution. That's why I ran for office, to better people's lives, housed and unhoused. I don't care if you're homeless or have $1 million home, you're still my constituent. And as it is my responsibility, it is all of your responsibilities to ensure that all citizens of Nashville are protected. This bill was written in the spirit of this belief. You must understand where the gaps are in the services because they exist. Now, the truth is that the service providers here in Nashville do amazing work, the Lord's work, as the saying goes. Unfortunately, they can't do it all. You don't believe me? Ask them. I did, and that's what they told me. Their reach is limited, and we have to fill the gaps. We were elected to serve our constituents. I ask that you support this bill. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So there is a motion to approve, properly seconded, and we were on to discussion. Councilman Parker, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and I really appreciate where the sponsor's coming from on this. I think it's a very much a genuine effort to try and improve a really difficult situation throughout our county. Unfortunately, I am rising in opposition to this particular piece of legislation, though. My concern is that even though the bill has been amended to not require a service provider to enter the service provider registry, those who do enter the registry will have this added layer of bureaucratic administrative tracking and whatnot. You know, you get 100 socks, and then you have to say which zip codes you've distributed those socks in. I mean, that's a large administrative burden. And I'm more concerned about the organizations that might not end up registering and creating a culture of sort of two classes of service providers in Nashville. And I don't know what the implications of that would be, but it's concerning to me because in a situation like when we have a camp closure, there are often different service providers who have different approaches and different perspectives and are able to connect with different people and get them the help that they need. And I don't want us to get to a situation where certain providers have less access to a camp that's being closed or just any other issue like that. And again, I don't see, I appreciate the sponsor's intent, but I don't see how this bill in its current form would actually improve the overall situation. And it has, in my mind, the potential to create that kind of two classes of service provider that could kind of be problematic in the future. So again, appreciate where the sponsor's coming from, but I'm going to have to vote against this bill. Thank you.
Mr. Bradford, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I noticed that there's staff from our Office of Homeless Services here. Just curious what their thoughts are on this legislation.
So from the administration's perspective, you know, my preference, I'm so grateful to the director for having stayed all this time. But to members, it is not typical to go to the podium in the gallery to acknowledge. But if the administration wants to recognize the director, I would respectfully ask if she would just, if Director, could you please come to the administration table? Thank you. Mr. Bradford, are you okay with, Director, I apologize, from a precedent standpoint, there was a question posed earlier today of fire in a similar regard. If the administration wants you to speak for them, you're going to need to come through and come up to the administration table, please, ma'am. So, Mr. Bradford, let's go further into the queue. Just to, in respect to the director, give her the time to come forward. Do you have a point of order, Ms. Porterfield? Go ahead, Ms. Porterfield.
I do have a point of order just for consistency. Councilmember Evans did ask for fire, and the kind of place where we landed was that had to be addressed through like email. So I think for consistency purposes, it's not fair that one department is getting the opportunity to speak when another department did not have the opportunity to speak.
I appreciate the point that you're making, but I did look to the administration. And so the administration can invite any department director to be present at this table to respond to the questions of the body. And so I do apologize about the perceived inconsistency, but I'm just going to take it under advisement, Ms. Porterfield. Director, you're acknowledged, Mr. Bradford, what you would like to understand the department's position on Mr. Huffman's legislation. Okay. Go ahead, ma'am. Director, you're recognized.
Everyone, thank you all for having me. It's a little late. It's been a long day. Sorry that you all are having to stay so late. I sent this out a little bit earlier and just saying that this bill will help with understanding who is providing services where. It will allow us to regularly update our website. We do have all of this information on our website, but it's not often updated. As agencies' stances may change or their funding situations may change, we'll be able to have that in real time. Also, it will allow for better coordination in identifying the gaps in service delivery. Here recently, there was an agency that was low on funding and have been laying their staff off, asking for voluntary layoffs and going to part-time status, and we don't have information on where they were providing services and where that gap is now being created. Also, this will help with strengthening. We are now the collaborative applicant. I think something like this that's endorsed by a committee as large as this, our Metro Council, will help with our overall federal collaborative application for the entire community, just showing that you all endorse collaboration as well.
Okay, thank you, Director. Does that answer your question, Mr. Bradford? Okay. Ms. Welsh, you're next and you're recognized.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Excuse me. I rise in opposition to this. First and foremost, it is good that this is listed as it is not mandatory for organizations to have to register. If it's not mandatory, I think this gives the appearance that it's mandatory and people are going to feel like they may have to just because Metro, because it does control so many of the purse strings. The complaints that people have, this is not generally how people access services. You don't go up to these organizations and go to the knock on the door and say, hey, I need a pair of socks or do whatever. There are outreach workers who work on the ground to do this, who bring services to people and direct people to other services. The Office of Homeless Services is supposed to be coordination and not service providing. There is already an interactive map that is on the website of the Office of Homeless Services that is divided by quadrant in the city that could regularly be updated and should be updated. And if organizations want that to be updated, they can offer that. But this is not something that organizations would like to do. They have not requested this and they don't feel comfortable doing this. This is adding just another layer of things that is trying to perhaps consolidate services within Nashville under the Office of Homeless Services, which isn't really their job. Many of the complaints people have about services, trash, all these sorts of things, this type of list is not going to change that. It's not going to solve those problems to clean up people's neighborhoods and things like that. Service providers move where new encampments and things pop up all the time, and they are providing services everywhere all the time. I have new homeless encampments in my district. CMVO has some in her district. People are confusing our districts and talking to us about new encampments that are popping up. So outreach workers are there all the time doing their work, and they want to be able to do their work in the way that they do their work and not have everything all entangled. And with an idea that somehow everything needs to be centrally located, that's not how they work. They don't want people coming to they are outreach, not inreach. They don't serve people who come knocking on their doors. Some might, but in general, that's not the way they would want to work. So I think this is well-intentioned, but I don't think it's going to get the end result that people want. And again, the idea, it isn't mandatory, but I think there is a veneer that it is mandatory based on the power that Metro has in terms of allocating money to some of these organizations and working with these organizations. So for all of those reasons, I ask that my colleagues not support this bill. Thank you.
Ms. Evans-Siegel, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise tonight just to say that I've shared throughout this process a concern that we have a lot of incredible providers in the space in town, and historically, they have worked together as a city. Now we are also trying to work with them. We also, though, have some providers who work in the city who I think we all agree are not providers that we would want to endorse or support. But much like the abhorrent speech that we heard earlier tonight, we as a government cannot censor abhorrent speech. We cannot censor those who we disagree with. We cannot censor those who have religious beliefs that maybe lead them to act in ways that we don't support. And by having registry, we will have to register all of those groups, regardless of whether or not we agree that they are providing a service we support. And so for that reason, I do not support this legislation at this time and will be voting against it because I do not want to give legitimacy to groups that are bad actors in this space.
Thank you, Ms. Evans-Eagle. Director, you and your team, please do find a chair to sit. It's not our intent for you to have to stand. There are other chairs over here, and if members of the administration would please look to find a place where the director and her staff member could please sit. Please just, you've been here a long time. It's not my intent to have you stand throughout this, what looks like it's going to be a lengthy discussion. Okay. Ms. Vo, were you previously recognized on this bill already? Oh, gosh, no. I guess you weren't. The whole night is just bleeding together now at this point. Okay. You're recognized, Ms. Vo.
Thank you so much, Madam President. I just want to thank, of course, the sponsor for all his hard work. I know all of us who are bringing forth legislation, I think we always want to improve and work on areas that we really care about. I do rise tonight in opposition. I've been talking with providers in my district about this legislation, and they felt that it does, it might on the surface seem beneficial, but they are very concerned about the impacts on what it could have on service providers, and especially the outreach organizations and those that are in my district. And they felt that, it could possibly open the door on the uses of information that could actually hinder organizations from providing services, which is, I know, the last thing we want to do for our unhoused constituents. And so, with that, I just need to stand with my organizations that are doing the work every day, and because of that, I can't support this legislation. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Coupin, you're recognized,
Thank you,
sir.
Madam President. I'm gonna say that I'm standing in support of the bill, though echoing my colleagues' sentiments that I stand with the organizations that are doing this hard work every day, that are out in the field helping our unhoused neighbors. And if anybody tries to come at them, for them, harass them, I want to be the first person to know, and I will stand up and defend them. My goal in supporting this bill is never to put them in harm's way or to cause any sort of undue hardship. I know they face a lot of pushback in the community, and I'm so appreciative for the hard work that they do. But I do think that it is beneficial to understand where different providers are serving and what services are being provided. I appreciate Councilwoman Evans-Eagle's amendment last meeting regarding making it not mandatory and making sure it's clear that it's not an endorsement of our government to include them in our list. But I do think it's beneficial to know who's serving where and how. And again, if this list is causing harassment of individuals or groups, I want to be the first to know about it, to push back and fight back on that. That's not okay and that's not acceptable. But at the same time, I know it would help my district and others to understand where these services are being provided, what's being provided, to make sure that our bases are covered. And the one-year-old Office of Homeless Services that is working to collaborate these entities is also asking for this. So again, I think that this is something I'm supportive of. And again, we have, I like to remind, this body that we have, as we know, we have the ability to change. So we put this together, and in 6 months, we find out this has caused all this harassment and all this awful stuff. We have the ability to change course and pull it back, right? We can pass another bill saying, oops, that wasn't a good idea. So I think that this is a good endeavor, a motion that I would encourage my colleagues to support. And again, if there are problematic pathways, I think there are ways to address those as they come up, instead of trying to anticipate and address something that's not a challenge. So I ask my colleagues to support.
Thank you. Councilman Rutherford, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise in support of this legislation, and as a co-sponsor, I have the opportunity to serve on the Homelessness Planning Council along with Councilmember Huffman. Thanks to you, Vice Mayor, for your appointment. I want to speak to, and not repeat things that we've heard tonight, but I want to speak to what I know is, and have seen, is Councilmember Huffman's heart and intention on this. He saw a need, and he has answered the call to that need and come up with a solution. And I think this is a good solution. Is it perfect? Maybe, maybe not. But we know that we can always come back to it if there are issues, if there are concerns, especially what has been brought up tonight. We can address those things if they come our way. And serving together with Councilmember Huffman on the HBC, we will certainly be on the lookout for any issues that may arise, but I don't really anticipate any. But we've heard from the director. We get a sense of where the department stands on this. This is ultimately a good thing, and I encourage members to support it. And I thank Councilmember Huffman for bringing it forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rutherford. Ms. Stiles, do you seek to be recognized on this bill? Okay. You're recognized.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. I stand in support of the sponsor. I completely understand where he's coming from. I genuinely believe as we are offering assistance from the city when we are collaborating on these efforts, we're not expecting a lot to want to know what everyone's efforts are. This is kind of a collaborative effort and has been since things have begun with the Office of Homeless Services. So to ask organizations, what have you done in this month? Who have you served? I don't think we're overreaching in that act. I think this is a fair request to make, and I would ask colleagues to support the sponsor.
Thank you, Ms. Stiles. Ms. Evans, Chair Evans, you're recognized.
Previous question.
Thank you. Ms. Evans has called the previous question. Is there a second? Okay, this is a non-debatable motion. It requires 2/3 of those voting, and it ends discussion on the bill. So if you are in favor of calling the question, you want to end debate and move straight to the vote. All in favor of calling the previous question, please say aye.
Aye.
Any voting no? No. Okay, the motion to call the previous question prevails. We move to the vote. Mr. Clerk, knowing that we will have noes, if we could please vote on the machine, please, sir. Okay, there's a motion to approve and pass this bill on third reading before you on your tablets. Okay, Mr. Taylor, are you seeking to vote? Mr. Taylor, sir, are you seeking to vote? Oh, okay. Okay, all votes are in. Mr. Clerk, please show the vote. This bill passes with 22 votes yes, 12 noes, and 1 abstention. That concludes our items on third reading. Colleagues, if I could, just for a moment, I wanted to take the opportunity. We had a difficult evening here, especially at the start, for our community, our body, our departments, our staff. I do know that you join me in giving a special thank you to the Metro Police Department, who was here with us this evening. I appreciate the coordination and support of the mayor's office, all our council staff. There's quite a bit happening in the background to ensure the community and your safety. I want to also give a special acknowledgement to Pro Tem Suara for her leadership during our Pro Tem Suara, I want to thank you for your leadership during our announcements period. So all of that was really coming to a head at that time, and I think with our partners. Members will have received an email from me particular to kind of assembling and going down. Know that you are safe and coast is clear, and so we can all proceed. Is there a motion to adjourn? Oh, Mr. Nash, I'm sorry. Sir, yes.
Vice Mayor, I think we also need to thank the Sheriff's Department and the state troopers that were here helping for security.
I appreciate you acknowledging them as well. Thank you, sir. So there's a motion to adjourn, properly seconded. We are adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.